Chapter 251 The New Chrysalis. Chrysalis, you look wonderful. Really, Master? Absolutely. What a wonderful evolution. Such an incredible difference. You positively radiate power and strength. Surely you are my most potent servant. Chrysalis wiggles with glee in front of me. Don't praise me too much, she says, embarrassed but also delighted. Nonsense. I insist you come over here so I can check on your core immediately. Buttered up by my words, Chrysalis makes her way towards me shyly. She looks pretty much completely the same. The only difference is that she has been promoted from tennis ball of infinite death and despair, to soft ball of infinite terror and despair. To put that in other words, she's slightly larger. On the outside, nothing else has changed with her, the inside is a different story. However, after reflecting on my attitude towards Chrysalis, I reasoned that she would be nervous after evolving, so I thought I should try and praise her a little, put her at ease. Practically vibrating with joy, Chrysalis allows me to place my antennae on her spherical main body and activate the core surgery skill. When I finish piecing together her information, I get this. Name: Chrysalis. Level: 1 core. Might: 78. Toughness: 65. Cunning: 34. Will: 32. HP: 131 130ths. MP: 210 210ths. Skills: Advanced Shadow Flesh Manipulation Level 6. Advanced Grappling Level 4. Expert Shredding Level 6. Enhanced Tremor Sensing Level 1. Brutal Dismembering Level 2. Greater Fear Inspiration Level 2. Mana Manipulation Level 3. Tentacle Walking Level 4. Mutations: Durable Shadow Flesh plus 5. Disintegrating Void Maw plus 5. Bottomless Dimensional Stomach plus 5. Dividing Tentacles plus 5. Ripping Barbs plus 5. Macabre Teeth plus 5. Mana Sensory Gland, Shadow Magic Gland. Shadow Flesh Generator. Species: Special Death Ball. Skill Points: 12. Biomass: 243. Yes. Look at the power of my pet. Solid boost to all stats. Chrysalis isn't a straight up hitter but a support fighter. Tiny can smash through the walls. I want Chrysalis to be a bit more flexible. The two new organs I've selected, the Mana Sensory Gland and the Shadow Flesh Generator, should be fantastic additions. It was a bit weird, but none of Chrysalis' system-built evolutions included any mechanism to take away her primary weakness, a lack of senses. She was supposed to remain sealed off from all senses except touch for the remainder of her existence, which just seems weird. It kind of feels like whatever decides the monster's forms and paths loves to come up with a concept and then stick with it absurd extremes. I did investigate simply giving Chrysalis some eyes, but the cost is actually quite high. When I thought about it a bit, it does make sense. Eyes are complex organs and require significant brain matter to process the visual signals with any sort of clarity. So rather than use up the bulk of an evolution simply sticking eyes on Chrysalis, I instead opted to give her a different sense. The Mana Sensory Gland works much like magical sonar, or like a permanently active version of my own Mana Sense skill. She'll be able to see and visualize mana sources near her, which will of course include monsters, who are filled with the mana generated within their cores. Combined with her tremor sense, she'll have a unique set of senses that are completely her own. Then the Shadow Flesh Generator. Being a shadow beast, her body has a different makeup than the beast-type creatures, and shadow flesh has its own properties. Malleable, strong, flexible, all good stuff, but it isn't that tough. Rather than try and make the shadow flesh more defensive, largely a waste of time, make it easy to replace. With the increase to her might and toughness stats, Chrysalis has experienced a boost in her mass, meaning there is more shadow flesh packed into her. This gland will effectively provide a high-speed regeneration option should she start to lose tentacles or have holes shot into her. It was the best healing option I could find for her after spending a heap of time mucking about looking through options. The Shadow Magic Gland is her own choice. It seems she may have been inspired by me a little and decided to go down the road of inherent magic produced in a gland and controlled magic utilizing the raw MP from the core. She has a natural affinity with shadow magic anyway, so I think this is a smart choice. Very satisfied with what I've found, I withdraw my senses from her core only to find Chrysalis hovering unusually still. Great job, Chrysalis. I'm super proud of you. The choice of the Shadow Magic Gland makes a lot of sense. Great work. HRCK. ... What? Ah. She broke. Looking closely I can see that she's gone into silent, vibrate in place mode. Too much praise, she couldn't handle it all. I think I'll need to give controlled doses of positive reinforcement over the next week or so to try and build up some level of tolerance within her, because this is just ridiculous. Sighing inside, I shift to another part of the cave and try to decide on my next moves. As I walk closer, Tiny looks across at me before settling himself back into guard position. Suddenly one of his hands lash out and smash into the wall of the chamber, crushing a monster just as it was emerging from the stone. Without changing expression, the big ape grabs the biomass in one hand, shoves it into his mouth and then repositions himself on the other side of the room. He must have developed a method for sensing where the next monster will emerge from and when, because he's gotten so damn good at being ready for it. Not that I'm complaining. I can sense them perfectly well with my heat detecting antennae, but I don't want to spend my time cleaning up these small fry. I have a heck of a lot more work to do. I think the next cab off the rank will be sorting out the humans. I think I get onto that relatively quickly and get it out of the way. After that, I have a list of things that I want to prepare regarding the setup of the nest in order to prepare for the next generation, and then I need to get onto my skills training. Phew, so busy. Chapter 252, Getting Down to Work. It's time to get down to work and we have a long laundry list of things to do. When Chrysalis revives, I put her on guard duty and take Tiny topside. The first order of business is to lend our muscle to the villagers as they struggle to make space for the growing number of refugees. With Tiny's significant physical prowess, we were able to fell trees and clear a wider area for the villagers to use. My own expertise in digging is also put to good use, flattening out terrain, digging foundations for a few larger buildings, and my Supreme +15 mandibles are tested for the first time cutting stone. Turns out there's a decent layer of usable stone a few kilometers from the village. After clearing the dirt around the area, I charged my mandibles with mana and utilized the incredible sharpness to cut out blocks that were then transported on rollers to be used in some more advanced construction. Despite working fairly feverishly, I did notice the Morelia had taken up the role of drill instructor. She had cleared a space outside the village as a rudimentary training court and was absolutely shredding the hide off a surprising number of grinning villagers. Looking at the smiling faces of those men and women only reinforced my impression of these people further. These villagers are crazy. No matter how hard she drilled them, running laps, practicing sword strokes, spear practice, physical exercise, they enthusiastically threw themselves into it with seemingly boundless positivity until they fell over. At that point, another group of villagers would arrive, drag the victims into the shade, give them some water, and then jump into the training themselves. When I approached a frazzled-looking Enid about the puzzling behavior, she was happy to explain it. This is a chance for them to change their lives. Most of these people were farmers, laborers, servers, or cooks before they were forced to flee. With classes like that, they have little agency in being able to control their own destiny. Simple people like us are reliant on the more martial classes to protect us, and as such we are always dependent. Turning her tired face towards the training fields, she smiled. Now they have an opportunity to step up and protect themselves, their families, and strike back at the monsters who took their homes. Of course they are overjoyed. Not to mention, she turned back to me, a complicated look on her face. Everything they need just seems to fall into their lap ever since they started following you. There are weapons, metals, a smith has arrived, and Bane has been freely sharing his knowledge of classes and skills. Out of nowhere we have a monstrously strong trainer and you have agreed to assist them in leveling them. This is an opportunity that no one here could have dreamed of only a few months ago. I look askance at her for a moment. You aren't starting to buy into Bane's rubbish, are you? I am certainly not a divine messenger of any kind. Enid chuckles and brushes her near white hair back from her forehead. If you keep producing miracles at the rate you have been, I'm not going to have much choice, am I? Please, no. Just, no. If you started treating me like that, I'd go nuts. Honestly, I probably wouldn't come back. That just made her laugh more. I'll try to keep any regard I develop for you to myself then. You better. After talking with her, I kept a closer eye on the villagers, and it was true that they did seem to have a large amount of pep in their step, and not only those training with Morelia. All of them were working industriously and spent their time building, fixing, helping, discussing, or throwing themselves into the millions of tasks that arise around any group of people. Considering they'd just fled their homes and certainly lost family members over the last period of time, they were almost comically chipper. After a few days of solid effort, Tiny and I had cleared enough space, and provided enough raw materials to keep them going for a while yet. Those with construction-related skills and classes were hard at work transforming our efforts into buildings, and the sounds of hammering and sawing could be heard even from the anthill. After retreating to check on Chrysalis and tickle the larva some more, it was time to take a few villagers into the dungeon. Not before I chased down Vibrant to see what on earth she was up to. Turns out her little retinue of workers had swelled to nearly 10 and they were madly dashing about above and below ground, rustling up food. They'd kept the grubs so fat they positively gleamed with chubby health, and the queen was already considering the next clutch of eggs. 200 fresh members of the next generation had been laid the other day, workers already obsessing over them, and now she wanted to lay another 200. I'd had to beg her to hold off at least a few days so that we had enough time to get the new ants up to speed and properly trained before another wave of hatchlings landed on my head. She reluctantly agreed, but I can see that the joy of fulfilling her function after so long has been building in her. Since just before I was born, the colony has been on struggle street, the nest raided, workers slaughtered, chased from their nest, and it's only now that we have achieved the stability to grow the ant colony the way it was almost meant to grow. I can understand her impatience. I really can. The next day Tiny and I took the small group of villagers who had achieved a basic combat class after their harsh grilling from Morelia into the shortcut. Enid decided to tag along to make sure no accidents happened and to help me relay my instructions to the people. Curiously, Morelia decided not to come, preferring to stay and continue training the villagers. It was an uneventful trip, to be honest. I sent Tiny ahead and let him smash everything that had spawned to the state of near death and then walked down with the villagers, allowing them to take turns last hitting the monsters and taking in the experience. Judging by the looks on their faces and the repeated bowing, they were pretty happy with the results despite it only costing Tiny and I a couple of hours and almost no effort. Still, the first power leveling trip was a success. I asked Enid to strictly warn them not to enter the shortcut, ever. It was for ant use and led directly deep into the first layer, meaning more powerful monsters could theoretically use it to approach the surface. Not to mention, Tiny might simply smash a human to death before he even recognized them if he ran into one down there. This was a very much, for your own safety, sort of warning. After agreeing to make another trip for the next group of villagers to achieve their class, it was time to turn my attention to the ant nest, specifically, the farms. I'd been sending Chrysalis in there to clean them up periodically, but now it was time to take this farming simulator to the next level in order to provide the kind of oomph we were going to need to raise up strong workers quickly. Chapter 253 Preparations continue. It would be utterly ridiculous if the humans were to be working harder than the ants. That is a situation that could never be borne. Never. Ants are the hardest working, most industrious species on the face of the earth. Never tiring. Never slowing. Now it's time to show it. Watching the humans feverishly working as if possessed by a spirit of madness has ignited a fire within my ant soul. I refuse to be outworked. I mean, the rest of the colony are working their guts out. As always, it's only me that takes breaks. The workers are either tending to the sudden influx of eggs, keeping them clean, keeping them the right temperature, shifting them between chambers to make sure the moisture in the air is correct, or tending to the larvae, feeding them, keeping them plump and happy. Not to mention that Vibrant has been racing about, followed by her own loyal posse of workers, at a mad dash, hauling piles and piles of surface monsters back to the nest. According to her, the surrounding forest is starting to look a little thin of surface monsters, so I recommended she take her group into the dungeon farms and upper tunnels to beef up her helpers and provide some more biomass-rich material for the colony. No sooner had the words left my mouth than she was off, dashing down into the dungeon, and soon enough she was back with her team, carrying large mandible loads of biomass. Naturally, this means the queen is getting ready to lay another clutch in the next few days. All of this biomass has largely been funneled towards her, which means my own preparations need to step up a gear. First, the farms. What's wrong with the farms? Nothing. What do we need? More farms. We need to pump out biomass and cores at a faster rate than ever before in order to kickstart the growth of the hatchlings, and there are going to be a heck of a lot of them. So the first thing I do is clear out the existing farms and chow down. No need to waste the food, and I somewhat spitefully want to keep it from the queen in order to slow down the rate of growth, if only a little. This nets me a quick 30 biomass, since they were relatively empty already due to Vibrant and RinoZ's attention over the last few days. Then the excavation starts. Currently the farms are 4 round chambers about 20 meters beneath the surface. In my grand expansion plan I add another 8 chambers, the new ones roughly double the size of the previous. Due to the size of the task I end up recruiting Vibrant and her gang when they return to the nest and we get our hands stuck into the dirt. Ah, the bliss. Aunt Zen, how I've missed you. A huge digging project like this produces a heck of a lot of dirt, and the villagers are treated to the sight of a steady stream of workers crawling about on the anthill, dumping loads of dirt and doubling the size of our visible home on the surface. I'm almost curious to ask what they think we are up to over here, but I don't need the attention. There's a ton more work to do after all. Once the digging is done and I've collected 2 levels in my excavation, enough to advance it to the 3rd rank, expert excavation, I need to try and increase our core farming speed. Unlike at our last nest, I don't have a convenient pool of mana-charged water that I can siphon off into the nest. In fact, the closest water supply is the river on the other side of the village. Theoretically, I could use my water magic to create all of the water that we needed, but according to Bane, materials created by mana don't quite have the same natural properties or capacity to hold mana quite like the original does. You can survive on mana-produced water, for example, but it doesn't hydrate nearly as well as nature's own. This applies to anything made with mana apparently. You can make metals with some advanced classes of earth mage, but they just aren't as good as what can be mined. So rather than settle for second best, I want a natural water source for the farms. What does that mean? More digging. With Tiny helping me, I get straight into digging out a channel that leads from close the anthill towards the river in a curved line that takes us around the southern edge of the village. Whilst we take care of the surface side of the equation, I ask RinoZ to use her tentacles to burrow holes from the end of the channel that drain into the upper 4 farms, then create a pool in each of those farms that allows the water to drain off the top into further holes into the lower 8 farms. With my increasingly magnificent digging skills and Tiny's brute strength, we dig out a fairly sizable channel in under a day. It takes a bit longer to make sure the banks of our channel are properly squashed flat to prevent leaking, and then to create a gate mechanism at the river end and at the anthill end. The last thing we want is to dump a river worth of water into the nest. The thwacking I would get from the queen. Yikes. Our work didn't go unnoticed in the village, and Enid came out to ask us what the hell we were up to. Once we manage to communicate the thrust of the project, the farmers get immensely excited, and it isn't long before Enid approaches to ask if I can assist them with a channel system for their farms. In return, they offered to forge up some proper gates for our irrigation system, something I was happy enough to accept. No way I'm digging it for them until I clear my schedule though. The ecstatic villagers were delighted to have a chance to help out their savior, the Great Ant, and they forged day and night to get the gates in place as soon as possible. So it was that a day later the final barrier between the river and the channel were cleared away, and sweet water flowed to the anthill and down into our farms, where it began to absorb the ambient mana in the air, drawing our own homegrown, free-range monsters to feast and hopefully form some cores. Excellent. With the major renovations to the nest completed, I can let the accelerated spawn of monsters during the wave take care of the rest and populate the farms. If we keep a steady drip of water going, hopefully in a few days we'll be able to harvest a nice haul of cores. It had better be that quick. We reached another milestone whilst I was busy digging. At first just one, but then all of the first 20 larvae started rolling about and spinning their cocoons. In a short amount of time they had become pupae, the final stage. Chapter 254. Check out my skills. I'm exhausted and my mandibles are aching something fierce after all that digging, but is it time to rest? Nope. Those damn pupae are teasing me with their very existence. The 20 large casings are resting against the side of a chamber, taunting me with their stillness. Within them, the hope of antkind is taking the final steps of their gestation, turning from a grub into something more, something incredible. The ant species to end all ant species. At least that's what I'm hoping for. If they suck, I'm going to be really disappointed. It shouldn't happen though. I reinforce my own positive mindset. They are going to be great. I've put so much effort into creating them and into making sure they'll get a solid boost to start out their new lives. Surely they'll be great. The closer this project is getting to fruition, the more stressed I'm getting. Put it behind you, Anthony. Put all of it behind you. Focus on yourself for a while. Treat yourself. To what should I treat myself? To skill training, of course. Not only me, Tiny and RinoZ have been roped in as well. After discussing things with Bane and drawing on his knowledge, our knowledge of the system has greatly expanded, and the weightiest nugget of wisdom to come out of that was the importance of skills. Whereas I had been putting too much emphasis on evolution and the energy within my core, I was ignoring 2 aspects of the holy trinity of monster power. Evolution, mutation, skills. All things must be in balance. So it is in nature, so it is within the monster. When one tree is watered over much, it does not grow properly, drowning instead of thriving, and the other trees wither. Only when the life-giving sucker is evenly distributed to all 3 trees shall the monster truly flourish in all aspects, mentally, physically, spiritually. I've gone some way to addressing the shortcomings of my mutations, but my skills are still lacking. When Bane had found out that none of my combat skills was of the 4th rank, he nearly slapped me out of sheer shock and in the process lost his only remaining hand. At least now with Shattering Bite advancing I have one 4th rank combat skill. Advancing skills, fusing them and taking them to their extreme ends is what the surface races spend most of their time doing in the pursuit of strength. Therefore, the time has come to take part in that most sacred of all system-related activities, grinding. Gonna grind like there's no tomorrow. The most important thing to grind. Of course it's magic. This was the most frustrating thing that Bane had enlightened me of. I'd thought I'd made use of an awesome hack in using my free magical affinity gland on gravity mana, and in a way, I still had. If I'd used it on fire, water or earth or something basic like that, it would have been a massive waste since I'm now able to produce those mana types now without too much stress. The problem is that having the gland doesn't give me access to what I really need to make use of it, which is the spell forms. I have the generic spell shapes that I've been using, but according to Bane, every mana type has particular spells that make best of its attributes. The more advanced the mana type, the more specialized the spells will be. Even though he'd never seen gravity magic before, he was sure it was a particularly advanced form of mana, which means that the skill I want, gravity mana affinity, will be deep in the skill tree somewhere. In order to get access to it, I have to level up my basic affinities, which will unlock the next rank of affinities, and so on until I finally get to gravity. According to Bane, once I get water magic affinity to the 3rd rank, the next wave of affinity skills will unlock. That is my most immediate goal. Apparently the exact types of mana that unlock are not necessarily set, and can vary from individual to individual. With a bit of luck I might even see gravity mana in the next rank, but Bane thought it was extremely unlikely. There is apparently a powerful skill fusion available by leveling all of the basic affinities to the 3rd rank and then fusing them to form the skill Elemental Mana Mastery, which gives powerful boosts to the basic elements. Most local mages aim for this elemental path apparently, but it seems like a waste to me. The higher ranks of magic will surely also have potent fusions available. I don't want to waste my time on the lower level stuff anymore. Rush to the top. So tiny. Chrysalis and I settle in to grind our skills, repetitively, endlessly, mind-numbingly. For me, that means forming and releasing the ice mana construct over and over again, casting water and ice spells at everything I can see. The walls, dipping into the dungeon and launching them at monsters, at tiny ones by accident, and the odd rock. Using skills in combat situations against monsters gives a much faster boost than just hitting the walls, but being as mentally exhausted as we are, I don't want us diving into frenetic combat. Keeping to the upper tunnels and picking on some plants is as much as I'm willing to commit to at this point. Just like this, we grind, and grind, and grind. Chrysalis is focusing on her tentacle skills, grappling, shredding, dismembering. After much persuasion, I eventually get a mortified Chrysalis to attempt to use her skills on me, thinking that as a highly evolved monster she'd get more experience using her skills on me. She was reluctant to say the least, which resulted in one of the stranger conversations of my life as a monster. Damn it, Chrysalis, cut me. No. Don't you want experience? Don't you want some of these juicy levels? I do. But, then hit me, damn it. Get those tentacles on this carapace. I order you to try and carve my bum off. What? No. Unable to deny my direct order, a screaming and weeping Chrysalis was forced to attack and attempt to dismember me. Her sawing limbs and intense crushing strength were powerful, to be sure, but they couldn't crack my shiny carapace. She did get a few levels out of the experience, but I decided the trauma it caused her wasn't worth the effort. Chapter 255 Grinding all day, grinding all night. The next few days pass in a blur. Chrysalis, Tiny and I continue to use our skills over and over again in the search of those elusive levels. In order to push harder, we forego sleep. No true training montage includes sleep. This does mean things get a little hazy after a while. Tiny and I managed to take the next group of villagers to change their class into the shortcut in order to power level them through the transition. Supposedly this boost will help the most since they're switching from such weak classes to something that has a non-horrific stat gain. These first 10 levels or so will give them the oomph they'll need to accelerate to the point they can fight monsters on their own. After sending the humans back to their village, it was back to the grind for us. I eventually switched grinding on my bite skills. According to Bane, it's highly likely that a fusion of bite skills exists if I can get them to the same rank. I have 3 bite skills at the moment, the highest being my Shattering Bite, then Splintering Chomp, and finally Ripping Bite. If I can get all 3 of those to the same rank, then the option to fuse them will likely come available. The higher I can get them before that point, the more potent the fusion will be. So I'm going to push and see if I can get them all to rank 4, that would be the best outcome. And all the while, those 20 pupaes sit still, somewhere above my head, like ticking time bombs. It should take them roughly a week in pupal form before they hatch, and I need to use this time to power myself up as much as possible. So the next 2 days bring more grinding until Tiny, Chrysalis and I finally collapse in a heap, too exhausted to continue any further. Some sleep is in order. Before we rest, I check in with the others and my own status to see the fruits of our labors. Tiny has gained 4 level in ape boxing, 2 in brutal uppercut, advancing the skill in rank to severe brutal uppercut, 3 levels in fancy feet, increasing in rank to dazzling fancy feet. His smash skill has increased to heavy smash level 3. His punching skills have all leveled up, making his fists even more deadly in combat. I still have no idea what fancy feet does, but I suspect it has something to do with balance and footwork, as opposed to actual dancing. I have no proof though. All in all, a respectable boost to his strength, but Dr. Anthony recommends further grinding. Chrysalis has also reaped some fruits. Her advanced shadow flesh manipulation was the main beneficiary, as she was able to raise it to the 3rd rank, expert shadow flesh manipulation level 1. Advanced grappling gained 4 levels to reach level 7, enhanced tremor sense raised 2 levels, her tentacle walking reached the 2nd rank, at smooth tentacle walking level 1. Chrysalis has also shown her dedicated attitude by obsessively grinding her mana manipulation and has managed to take it to mana shaping level 2 already. With her flesh manipulation reaching new heights, combined with her enhanced mass, Chrysalis is now able to manifest a truly ridiculous number of tentacles, and her control over them has grown impressive. Razor-thin tentacle wires, tentacle nets, you name it, she can do it. As a shadow puppeteer, she is without equal. As for myself, gwe. Behold, Mana Scrooge 2 levels up to level 3. Cerebral Endurance, up 3 levels and advances in rank to Advanced Cerebral Endurance level 2. Deep Meditation up 4 levels to level 6. Stamina up 3 levels and increases in rank to Advanced Stamina level 2. Mana Transformation up 3 levels to level 9. Shredding Bite up 4 levels to level 5. Splintering Chomp up 2 levels to level 6 and Shattering Bite up 1 level to level 12. Most importantly, Advanced Water Mana Affinity up a whopping 7 levels to 10 and advanced to 3rd rank. Expert Water Mana Affinity. Muahahaha. Gasp. So tired. Phew. Muahahaha. It nearly melted all of my brains together, but I did it. How many thousands of water and ice spells did I have to cast? Don't ask. I don't want to think about it. But according to Bane, reaching the 3rd rank should unlock the next set of magical affinities that will become available to me. No sooner do I spend the skill point to advance the skill do I pop open the menu and see what my options are. Come on, gravity. Gimme that suction. That sounds wrong. The menu reads as follows: Mind Magic Affinity, Mineral Magic Affinity, Sound Magic Affinity, Healing Magic Affinity. No. Why damn it. My dreams, my hopes, all gone to ashes. This means I'll have to select one of these and level it to the 3rd rank before unlocking the next wave. Which means a heck of a lot more grinding. Well, which of the 3 options will be best? I'm guessing I unlocked Mind Magic due it being the construct I use the 2nd most, Mineral Magic probably because of my digging skills and species as an ant, presuming it's a kind of advanced earth magic. Sound Magic, possibly due to my sneak skills. Healing I would put down to my emphasis on regeneration and possibly my exposure to healing mana from the Queen. Sigh. Perhaps gravity is simply too powerful to become available so quickly. Let's hope so. Of the 4 options, I think I'll pick Mind Magic. It makes a lot of sense, since I frequently use it already and I feel like there is a ton of potential there for shenanigans. If it really is capable of reading minds and altering memories, then I can do all sort of things with it. After picking up all these skills and grinding my minds into dust, it's time for some rest. Exhausted, the 3 of us collapse into sleep, having recruiting Vibrant and her posse to protect us as we rest. As torpor gradually leaches through my body and the world grows still, there is one thought lingering in my mind: the next generation is only 5 days away. Chapter 256. Time advances rapidly. The next day I dedicated myself to digging out the channels for the village to use for irrigation. With Tiny helping, we shifted a heck of a lot of dirt, very quickly indeed. As a side project, we used the extra dirt to erect a nice and high bank for the channel network, as well as building up the height of the river bank. It never hurts to have a few extra layers of protection in case of flooding. The villagers were only too happy to pitch in, and their own tireless efforts spurred me on to work even faster. It was interesting to see the farms taking shape so quickly. Teams of humans have been churning out simple wooden fencing, whilst other groups have been marking lines in the dirt and digging holes for fence posts. The planting is already happening on the land that we've cleared. People have been collecting seed, and apparently some farmers had time to bring some with them on carts. All they were waiting for was a clearly delineated space and for someone to plow the new fields. Yet another task that was currently being seen to by dedicated groups of humans. Seeing the cooperative and coordinated groups in action put in mind of nothing but ants at work. It made me curious enough to go and find Enid to ask where this industrious spirit of cooperation came from. It's partly that people need something to focus on in order to take their minds off the tragedy. After losing homes, family, their nation, these people are desperate for something they can work towards, she explained. And the rest? Bane, she said simply. He preaches day and night about the benefits of cooperative work, that we should be more like the colony of saviors that have created this sanctuary, and that by acting selflessly and working together, the people can give thanks and praise to the great ant. ... Are you serious? Perfectly. Stupid priest. Still, if the people are going to be more ant-like in their behavior, it should only work in their favor. They might actually get stuff done. Speaking of people getting stuff done, Enid is looking tired. Her wispy white hair and weathered skin look even more lined and thin than usual. The woman is skinny as a wooden rake chewed by termites as it is. Her current position as the de facto leader of this community seems to be weighing her down. You need a break, Enid. The people can live without you for a day, surely. Go lie down or something. The village won't be better off if you keel over and have a heart attack. The old woman looks at me strangely for a moment before barking out a laugh. You're telling me not to work hard. Look at these people. I've never seen people working so much or so quickly in all my days. No. Just because I'm old doesn't mean I can't keep up the pace. If anything, these young people can't keep up with me, she declared proudly with a glint in her eye. She's tough as a stone formed from the fusion of other, lesser stones, that were themselves formed from the skulls of stubbornness record holders. She gives of an indestructible air, and at times I have to remind myself that this person was an iron-fisted merchant, tough enough to marry one of the highest level mercenaries in a kingdom. All right, fine. Just eat something, would you? If a strong breeze comes your way, who knows where you'll end up. Enid smiles and nods, reaching out to hesitantly pat me on the carapace. Thank you for your concern. I'll make sure I eat more. Anthony. Sorry. What's that? My name, I point to myself with an antenna. My name is Anthony. A warm smile spreads across Enid's face and she reaches out to pat me again, more confidently this time. It's nice to meet you, Anthony. Did you call yourself that because it has the word ant in it? You might not believe this. I've never actually noticed that before. All she does is laugh. I'm not exactly why I told Enid my name, but it felt right to do so. Perhaps she'll eventually put two and two together and realize that an ant monster really shouldn't have a name, or even need one. The leap from that fact to my actual origins is quite a large one though, not that I think it will make a difference to anything even if she does realize I was once human. I am not human any longer. With every passing day in this new world I can feel my connection to the old me falling away. I like my new family. I like the new me. No longer powerless. No longer unwanted. I've made significant upgrades in almost every aspect of my life. I mean, the senseless violence I could live without, also the distinct lack of pizza. But hey, you can't ask for everything. I wonder how the other souls brought to this place found it. Gandalf seemed to suggest that he only brought damaged people here, whatever that means. Perhaps they adapted well to life on this world and found their own little niche here. He did say that most of them just died. Makes you wonder why he makes the effort. My idle musings were rudely interrupted by a rising dust cloud in the distance and the vague trembling in the earth. Damn crocodiles coming back again. They never learn. 2 hours later I'm standing amidst the broken wreckage of another beast monster swarm. If I eat any more of these damn centipedes I'm going to unlock the final profile for them, surely. I'm sick of the damn bugs. Doesn't help that I'm covered in their ichor. There were a ton of them in this wave. Although the village and the colony suffered losses in the battle, it was much less than last time. The humans were far better prepared, even though only a few days has passed. Morelia was her usual violent self and her team backed her up well, but the people they have been training took part. The village was able to deploy some archers, as well as some properly armed swordsmen and women, the power levelers. Although low level and without proper training, they were able to form and hold a rudimentary battle line, with the archers providing supportive fire over the top. With the mad priest Bane in their midst, they'd fought with a relentless zeal, pushing them to battle on through injuries even a monster would balk at. As for the ant side of the equation, the big difference maker for us in the battle was that Vibrant was here. The powerful soldier was a tank in the battle, crashing through the monsters and disrupting their attempt to overwhelm the workers. The workers themselves benefited from Vibrant's aura, giving them extra speed when they were her, but more than that, they seemed to act in a slightly more coordinated way. Acid was launched from the back of the battle line constantly, and the ants just seemed to move more smoothly to engage their targets in outnumbered battles, pulling them apart quickly and then moving on to their next enemy. Something is definitely happening there. I have to talk to that ant soon. For my part, I brought Tiny and Chrysalis up and we rampaged through the horde, slowing and disrupting as much as possible. I personally took the chance to try and train my lesser skilled bite skill, Shredding Bite. It's absolutely the messiest of all of my bite skills, hence the mess covering my shiny carapace. The things I do for the grind. Chapter 257. The day draws near. Still, it isn't as though my efforts have gone completely to waste. Rushing into the thick of the battle and chomping away certainly got me fairly battered, but the harvest of skill levels is still worth it. It's a bit unfortunate that these enemies are so unevolved, but I suppose a large mass of monsters like this would be far too much for the colony and village to handle had they been more advanced. Nevertheless, I was able to gain another 3 levels in Shredding Bite and 2 levels in Advanced Stamina. That skill is really starting to have an effect at this point. The skill doesn't give increased stamina in and of itself, that's not how skills work. What it does do is provide knowledge and assistance in moving the body in such a way as to reduce the effects of fatigue, effectively making the stamina you have available last longer. Pretty darn handy thing to have in these battles. I was also able to harvest another 2 levels in Expert Exoskeleton Defense. Allowing hundreds of weaker monsters the chance to hit my incredibly shiny carapace is at least helping me boost this key defensive skill. I'll be a happy ant when I can get it to the 4th rank. I spent a fair bit of time firing acid about the place in this battle, which was enough to gain 3 levels in improved acid shot and another 2 in precise shooting, which allowed me to increase it to advanced precise shooting level 1. It really does seem that by focusing and concentrating on the skills they advance at a much faster pace than just doing it passively. Another piece of advice I should probably feel grateful to Bane for. I just don't feel comfortable around that guy. In the wash-up of the battle I was able to secure some of the salvage for the villagers to use, but the majority of it went to the colony, more food for the queen to put toward another clutch of eggs, I suppose. There's already 400 of the things sitting in the colony. The first clutch of 200 are due to hatch any day now, and the needs of the colony are going to grow at a darn fast clip from there. Raising up 200 larvae will be a big job. The colony will have to start hunting in the dungeon a bit more actively from that point on. Fingers crossed I can get the first 20 up and firing fast enough that they can help provide for the rest. I'm sure as heck not doing it all myself. The other thing to occur in the wash-up of the battle was that Morelia and Enid approached me about the possibility of some defenses for the village. The colony doesn't really need walls to protect us. If the enemies want to try and invade us and battle within the tunnels of the nest, then they are welcome to. They'll get themselves absolutely ripped to shreds. I can, however, see the value for the village. They lost people in this battle again. Not many, but still. After all of the loss that they've seen, losing anyone at this point really hurts. Since all I have to commit is a few hours of Tiny's and my time, I think we can swing it. So despite being completely exhausted, I found myself hastily throwing down as much biomass as I could, another 20 points worth, before dragging Tiny over to begin shifting a heap of dirt in order to lay the groundwork for some rudimentary defenses. I don't have the time to dig all the way around the village, so I concentrate my efforts in an arc that starts close to the river and curves around the north side of the village, roughly 200 meters from the closest buildings. Nothing too technical needs to be done at this point, certainly not by me. All I do, with Tiny's muscular assistance of course, is dig a wide trench and have Tiny pile the dirt on the village side. Hey presto, rudimentary wall. The villagers can do the rest of the work, leveling out the trench on the north side and piling the dirt on the south side. I'm sure they'll use some logs or something to reinforce it, drive them the ground. I'm not an expert, they'll work it out I'm sure. When that's done, I've managed to gain another 2 levels in expert excavation, and despite the soothing nature of digging, I'm wrecked. Time to sleep. Tiny and I drag ourselves back to the colony and collapse into a heap. The sweet release of torpor. On I'm up. Woo. Gotta run at the new day with some energy. Since it won't be long until those damn pupae hatch and new hatchlings emerge, all shiny and new. I've been able to tick a few things off my list of preparations, but there is still a ton to do. Leaving Tiny on guard duty this time, I get Chrysalis to hop on my back and we do a final sweep of the farms. I let Chrysalis take the bulk of the XP and we allow the workers to come in and claim the biomass. The queen is still rather full from the other day and the workforce needs to keep up their mutations, they certainly aren't as well fed as my group. Vibrant's little team is becoming an exception though. I've noticed that her followers are starting to show increasing signs of mutation lately. A gleaming carapace here, a razor-sharp mandible there, it's all adding up to a picture of a powerful squad. I'm glad she isn't sacrificing all of the food to the colony and allowing her workers to grow themselves. The stronger they get, the less risk they experience in hunting. The real purpose of clearing out the farms at this stage is to try and harvest some cores, and in this we were successful. 20 glittering new cores are added to my much diminished stash when we are done. Then I get some more water poured into the farms and it's time to move on to the next and possibly final set of activities. I've done my best to empower myself over this last week, as well as build the capacity of the colony. I've done a fair bit of work for the village as well, but I'm hopeful that they might be able to reciprocate that assistance at a future point and aid the colony. I have a few ideas on that front, but it'll have to wait a bit before that can play out. What I need to do now is get back on the hunt and pile up another round of biomass. I need to eat. The goal of +15 all around is still a long way away and it must be achieved before evolution can occur. Whilst I'm at it, I'll probably get a chance to grind a few more levels of my skills. Tiny. Chrysalis, to the dungeon. Only 2 days until the pupae hatch. Chapter 258. The feast, the grind, the spend. There isn't much time and I still want to work on myself as much as possible. I have skills I need to grow and a whole heck of mutations I need to purchase to get myself in fighting shape. I don't want to take my superiority for granted anymore. After losing half of my commercial district to a hostile takeover by the child of Garalosh, I know I need to wise up and get as strong as I can, as fast as I can. My family needs to protect it until it can grow large enough and strong enough that it can take care of itself. At that point I can sit back and relax and let the colony take care of me for a change. Maybe take a holiday. How does an ant take a holiday? I'll work something out. Do some digging for fun or something. Vibrant and her posse are already in the dungeon somewhere, farming their little hearts out, so I let the queen know that I'm heading to the dungeon for a day and make my way to the shortcut. As we make our way out of the anthill and towards the shortcut, I can see the activity in the village, feverish as always. They have so many projects on the go I can't understand how they get the energy. They're working on the wall, still putting up buildings, and somehow there are more people doing weapons training than there were before. Apparently there's another dungeon entrance out there somewhere that Morelia knows about and she's going to start taking her crew down on short expeditions. Apparently having had the first 20 combat-classed individuals powered through the first levels is enough, and now they can handle some short delves and power level their own people. With Morelia and her people helping, I'm sure they'll be fine. The shortcut is still spawning plant monsters and the odd beast. We smash our way through these freshly spawned beasts, barely stopping to eat until we reach the bottom and make our way into the expanse. The scene here is very different to what I remember. The sound of vicious combat and the roars and growls of monsters on the hunt echoes throughout the space. Very different to the eerie lack of activity that occurred under the suppression of the croc. Needless to say, I like it a lot more now. Without the newly spawned monsters being sucked in by the oppressive aura and sent out in marauding waves, the expanse is suddenly flush with life, the enhanced spawn speed of the wave contributing to the vibrant atmosphere. Perfect hunting ground. 12 hours later, Tiny, Chrysalis and I crawl out of the expanse towards the shortcut. Why is it always so filthy? Once again I'm covered in a fragrant mix of dirt, ichor and swamp water. Tiny also looks quite ridiculous, his fur matted and wet, stuck to his body and covered in muck. Only Chrysalis is unaffected, a spherical blob of darkness, unsullied by anything unwanted. How the heck does she do it? The expanse had been full of activity, plants versus turtle hippos and various other monsters crawling out of the woodwork to battle. I checked in on the aphid population only to find them still relaxing, unchallenged on top of the foliage. It seems even in the aggression-filled dungeon, monsters won't bother killing a creature that will happily feed them so long as they leave it alone. I also made sure to secure one tiny armload of the mana-infused wood that we found the last time we were here. I'd love to know if there is anything interesting we can do with it. More to the point, if there is something interesting that can be done with this kind of material, I wonder if the village can teach the colony what to do with it. I suspect that the more intelligent monsters, such as the Sophis, can make use of the materials they find in the dungeon, and if the colony is going to reign supreme, live independently, then we need to harness every advantage we can. Once more we ascend, crushing our way up the shortcut, and I take a few moments to take stock of my own gains over the last hunt. First up, the 160 biomass I gained is the most immediately relevant thing. That brings me to 246, enough for some serious upgrades. I was also able to grind some levels over the duration, naturally I didn't miss such an opportunity. Mind Magic Affinity gained 3 levels. I used this non-stop during our stay in the Expanse. Taking the skill gave me a slew of new mental spells I can use, most of which are variations of our more advanced techniques with the Mind Bridge. I mean, it makes sense, right? To affect another creature's mind, you need to make some sort of connection to give you access to their thoughts. Ergo, the Mind Bridge forms the basis of almost all mind magic. The trick I spent most of my time on was misdirection in battle, using the Mind Bridge to feed foes incorrect stimulus for a brief second during combat. The monsters would think they'd been attacked from behind, or think they saw a flash of movement in the corner of their eye, or hear the sound of a thumping foot next to them, all of which didn't exist in reality. At first it hadn't been as effective as I'd expected, but with a bit of practice I was able to become more convincing and my timing improved, so I had monsters leaping to dodge attacks that weren't there or putting their guard up in exactly the places I didn't want to attack. This sort of mind control feels kind of evil, but I can't say I don't like it. Gwahehehe. Naturally, when using magic to this extent, my other magic-related skills go up as well. 2 levels in Mana Scrooge, 1 in Transformation, 3 in Deep Meditation, and 2 in Advanced Cerebral Endurance. I felt like I was able to gain levels in these skills faster using mind magic than I was with water and ice, perhaps because the magic itself is more advanced. Might have to ask about that. The other added benefit of using mind magic to distract and harass my foes was that I was able to simultaneously train my bite skills, so I was able to reap a small harvest there as well. 2 levels in Shredding Bite allowed me to advance it to Tearing Bite, 2 more levels in Shattering Bite, and 3 in Splintering Chomp. Now that Tearing Bite has reached the 3rd rank, the goal of having all of my bite skills at rank 4 is suddenly within sight. Once I get them there, I'll attempt the skill fusion and see what sort of skill comes out. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't checked in with Tiny and RinoZ yet. I'm sure they were able to make gains similar to my own. I'm too tired to battle RinoZ and make her spend all of her points right now. I'll save that for later. I'm sure Tiny hasn't spent his points, just because he's too lazy to do so. If I had to guess, I would assume he is still sitting on all of the points we earned for fighting the giant Croca. Damn slacker. Weary but satisfied, we crawl down into our little chamber beneath the nest and settle in. I'll have to spend my biomass and perhaps clean my carapace, have time for a nap, and then we will go into high alert, Depth Con 5. The pupae should be ready to hatch. Chapter 259, The Final Preparation. After slumping back into our chamber and putting Vibrant on guard duty, it was time for me to spend my newly amassed wealth. The last few days have been extremely productive, both for the colony and the village, not to mention the significant gains I've made within my own personal strength. The knowledge that I've gained has proven itself to be valuable almost immediately. My skills have been rapidly leveling. It'll probably take weeks to get things to the point I'd be happy with it, but at least I'm on the way. The job I have now is to spend it up big. I've got 246 in the bank and I'm ready to go. At 60 apiece, this is enough to get 3 body parts to +1.5, not enough to complete the +1.5 body, but enough to close the gap. But what to mutate first? I'm not sure. I've hit the main points in the mandibles and carapace. I think I'll go with a bit of a mix of utility here. I'll upgrade the coordination cortex, my legs, and my gravity magic gland. That should be a good boost. Do you wish to improve your divergent combined coordination cortex to +1.5? This will cost 65 biomass. Yes. At this level you may choose to combine your mutations, or emphasize one. Which will you select? For this one I'm going fuse the 2 options. This should help the brains remain strong at both cooperation and individual spell casting. Do you wish to improve your rapid absorption legs to +1.5? This will cost 65 biomass. Bring it. At this level you may choose to combine your mutations, or emphasize one. Which will you select? I'm less certain on this one. Moving fast is nice, absorbing mana through the legs is also nice. I don't really prefer one over the other to a large degree, but I'm also not certain that they will fuse to something worthwhile. I guess for the time being at least I should emphasize the spell casting ahead of the quick movement. Absorbing mana through the legs has increased my MP regeneration by a ferocious amount. If I keep on using spells in battle, having that increased regen will be very helpful. So I'll emphasize the absorption. Do you wish you improve your expanded deep gravity magic gland to +15? This will cost 65 biomass. Naturally. At this level your mutations will be reinforced. Do you wish to proceed? Since I've taken the same upgrade twice for the gravity magic gland, then I naturally won't get the choice to fuse. I'll be interested to see how much capacity I'll have once this mutation is done. Confirm all of those. Humma. Hangaramba. Damn it. As the itch overpowers my senses, I can only fall to the ground, twitching uncontrollably as my body no longer responds in the way I want it to. I hate this. Eventually it fades and I regain control of myself, averting my gaze from the judging eyes of Tiny. I can't help it, man. It's not my fault. With that behind me I can have a quick rest. After farming away in the expanse and mutating, I'm ready for a quick break. I'm up. Back in the attack. Getting my legs moving I quickly check out the situation in the nest. Phew. The pupae haven't hatched yet, but it isn't going to be long. Ominously, the next 200 larvae have already hatched. Very small at the moment, so soon after emerging from their eggs, the little grubs are tended to by a small army of workers who diligently clean them and stuff them full of the food they'd been amassing for just this purpose. As soon as the flood of eggs started hitting the nest, the workers, ever on the job, began to hoard food, storing it in their social stomachs and squirreling it away for the young. Secretly, I'm hoping that this will slow down the queen a little on her march to explode the colony's population. Even though the first batch of 200 eggs has hatched, there's another 200 waiting for their moment. In a few days they'll hatch as well, and it'll be a hell of a job trying to get 400 members of the new generation up to speed. The whole point of creating this new breed of ant to be members of the colony is to give them a chance to fight intelligently, so they don't have to throw their lives away and die meaninglessly hurling themselves into the enemy. If I don't raise them properly and bring them out of the weak hatchling phase, then they might die as soon as something looks at them sideways anyway. Since I have a moment of time, I head over to the village and bring along a sample of the wood that we brought up from the expanse. I want Enid to take a look at it, since she was a merchant who specialized in dungeony type stuff. To my displeasure, she is otherwise occupied supervising a dungeon delve away from the village, and only Bane is around to speak with me. Talking with the one-armed priest as always, loud. Oh great one. I am honored by your gift of this stick. Too loud. It's not a stick, we took it from the expanse below. Give it to Enid. I understand, oh great one. I shall present your stick to the mayor as soon as she returns. Not a stick. Mayor. Enid has been promoted. Bane shrugged. It was more just making formal what had already been in place. She's been running this place since we got here, may as well call her the mayor for her trouble. Makes sense, I suppose. Chapter 260, First Words of a New Era. With my delivery done, I head back to the nest to await the looming emergence of my finest creations. These ants could change many things. For one, it would be nice to have more options for conversation. Vibrant talks. Probably too much for my comfort, and mother has many responsibilities, not to mention many children, so I can't exactly monopolize her time, in good conscience. Tiny and Chrysalis aren't the best conversationalists either. Tiny barely has the brain capacity to speak, and Chrysalis has a few hang-ups that make talking to her somewhat difficult. Perhaps if I ever work out a way to free them for their pet status, they might be a little more engaged, and not quite so respectful. Obviously, having a decent chat isn't the reason why I embarked on this project. I wanted to fill the colony with smarter, deadlier workers. Ants with the capacity to reason, to communicate, to think cooperatively, and most of all, to fight strategically and tactically. No more suicidal charges, no more throwing their lives away. Instead, teamwork, some self-preservation instinct, planning and loss minimization. An ant colony that is capable of all the tactical thinking of a nation. That is what I wanted. And now, here I stand, on the dawn of a glorious new ant era. My new siblings will soon be born, and I'm willing to bet this world has never seen anything quite like them. Smart monsters exist, sure, but not like this. Ants are different, ants are special. They cover the Earth. The combined mass of ants is estimated to be the same that of humans, assuming 1 million ants weighs the same as one person. That's 7 quadrillion ants. On Earth, ants were tiny little insects, unable to increase too much in size as their bodies are unable to support that kind of mass. Here on Pangera, this world has magic and all sorts of crazy stuff. Ants the size of large dogs. Sure, why not? What if we get 7 quadrillion ants the size of large dogs? What if we get that many and all of them are as intelligent as a human? We'd be unstoppable. I have to admit though, as I crawl into the nesting chamber where the 20 pupae are resting against the wall, tended to by a small team of workers, that I also have some worries. Fundamentally, what makes an ant colony so successful is the cooperation between each individual member, to the point where the colony can be considered one creature, each ant a single cell of something greater than itself. Where humanity on Earth is riven by strife, within nations, within cities and within families, an ant colony is unified, singular in mind and purpose. By elevating their intelligence to that of a human, have I introduced those chaotic impulses? Will the new workers exercise free will, tearing the colony apart from within? Once I give space to doubts, they begin to scale out of control. Will there be civil war? Will ant fight against ant within the colony, pitting sibling against sibling? Will a tearful queen be forced to put down an uprising of her own children? That would be horrific. It isn't as if I had to cooperate with the colony. I, as a human reborn as monster, could have chosen to do whatever I wanted. I decided to embrace the colony, to support and help it, to depend on it and thrive alongside it. Someone else might have chosen differently. Perhaps they would instead feast on the colony, killing workers who wouldn't fight back, harvesting them for experience and biomass, growing fat on their supposed family before moving on in the dungeon as an independent monster, leaving behind a destroyed colony in their wake. Is that the kind of thing we'll have to deal with now? Selfish ants. Who ever heard of selfish ants? Such a thing doesn't even make sense. It's not a concept that should exist in this world or any other. It goes against the very nature of ant kind. Ants are selfless. I mean, they are also mostly brainless, but that's beside the point. My mind is filled with the tragic image of my siblings ripping each other apart in the tunnels of our nest over a stupid and petty justification. Will the unity of the colony be destroyed by the new generation? Have I undone the very fabric of ant society with my evil experimentation? What have I done? Wait, I heard something. Silence. I'm sure that I heard it. It was the pupae. I rush closer to the cocoons, pushing my way amongst the suddenly buzzing workers. Yes, there is sound coming from within. They're breaking out. The newly formed ants within are starting to break out of their cocoons, and the workers on the outside move to assist, peeling away the layers with their mandibles and helping to free the emerging workers. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm excited, but also nervous. Making intelligent ants, was it a mistake? Will this be a moment of triumph? Or of failure? It's too late for regret now. The fruits of my labor are being released into the world before my very eyes. I almost feel like a mad scientist watching his creation come to life. I played with these ants when they were grubs, but it's often hard to put them together in my mind as the same creatures. Looking at the vague shapes pushing against the inside of their cocoons, I feel as if I'm seeing them for the first time. My heart is pounding within my chest. I'm lightheaded. I need to breathe. In, out, in, out. Relax, Anthony. It's fine. You've either elevated your colony to the peak of the world or doomed them to collapse as savage internal strife that pits sibling against sibling. So no stress. Ma God, I can't take it. The workers swarm over the pupae now, cutting into the fibers of the cocoons and tearing them open. Gradually the still soft and pale workers within are being revealed. They are smaller than normal hatchlings. Hatchlings were already quite small, but these are noticeably smaller. I had to sacrifice a lot to get their cunning and will stats up, and their bodies are even weaker than mine was when I was born on this world. That'll change once they start to evolve though. The early part of their lives will be tougher, sure, but the payoff will be there after a few evolutions and they start to specialize. The other thing I gave them is a fully developed language pheromone gland. These little workers are able to talk the moment they are born. I wonder what they'll say. A declaration of war against the queen. Surely too soon for that. Perhaps they'll declare their independence. Will they complain? Protest? Will the anguished cries from their very souls will resound throughout the chamber? Any moment. Just how much of their nature is inherently ant? How much of it depends on the mind they are born with? This is a whole lot of questions I should have answered before I embarked on this project. I have a deep-seated fear that these ants are going to do something one day that I'm going to regret. Oh, That one is almost free. So is that one. The workers make faster progress as the outer layers peel away and the ants inside start to be able to move more, their new bodies stiff and unresponsive. Soon the cocoons are torn open and the 20 members of the new generation are lying on the chamber floor, slowly becoming accustomed to their new forms. I watch apprehensively. I've worked myself up too much, I don't know what to expect. Then one of them speaks. D. Death. What? M. Ma. My death. You want to die already? Are you like Frankenstein's monster? Do you yearn to be free of your tormented existence? The worker in question wiggles its limbs more vigorously, growing in strength with each passing moment. It speaks again. My death. For the colony. Then another speaks. My life. For the colony. And another. My existence. For the colony. As the workers gradually put their feet under themselves and stand, they all begin to cry out, their voices weak at first but growing stronger each second. I will give my life in the service of the colony. For the Queen I shall die. I will be the first to sacrifice myself by the glory of the colony. I will be the one to throw myself upon our enemies, letting myself be torn apart for the colony. For the colony. For the colony. For the colony. The small ants begin roaring as one, the fervor in their voices matching the burning fire in their eyes. I've seen it before, this passionate heat that seems to radiate out of them, filling the air of the chamber. I've seen it in the eyes of my sibling, the workers, as they throw themselves into battle. Now I can hear what it was they were thinking. The new generation might have the intelligence of people, but they are ants through and through. Chapter 261. Another voice from the dark. As the voices of the new hatchlings ring throughout the room, and I start to wonder just what it is that I've done, another voice sounds within my mind. Original species has been detected. New species type has been assigned. Gandalf. What the heck are you on about? Is he saying that the new hatchlings are recognized by the system as a different species to mine? I did make a lot of changes. Does this mean that the workers will attack them? That would be terrible. Before I can process the implications of what is being said, the voice of the Grey One continues to speak. You have been designated as the progenitor of this new species. Do you wish to align your species, and that of your colony, with this new archetype? Yes, I suppose. The instant I assent within my mind, there is an audible rumble around and within me. A lethargic feeling rises up through my limbs and claws towards my mind, dragging me down into the lassitude I recognize as torpor. Chrysalis. Watch me. Before I can finish the sentence, my thoughts slow like congealing grease until they move no more. I'm up. Chrysalis. How long was I out? I sway my eyes across the scene around me and try to process what has happened. To all appearances, not much has changed. The hatchlings are still congregating together, shouting and arguing with each other with increasingly loud voices. Something that has changed is the workers. Their movements are slowing, some of them are already still, and I recognize the creeping lethargy of torpor in all of them. Master, is everything all right? Chrysalis asks, worried. Just tell me how long it's been since I last spoke to you. Only a few moments, I haven't even made it up the tunnel to you yet. Just a few seconds. What in the name of heck is going on here? The voice of Gandalf mentioned something about new species and I agreed to have mine changed. Maybe I should check my status and see if anything has changed. Sure enough, when I bring up my status, my species has changed. No longer Formica, but Formica sapiens. As time passes, workers are crowding into the nest, crawling down the tunnel from below and stuffing themselves into chambers only to immediately grow still. Wait a second. Bursting out of the chamber, I rush down the main tunnel of the nest, passing Chrysalis on her way up. I ignore her confused questions and throw myself into the Queen's chamber. Behind me I can see more workers making their way in from outside, crowding the entrance and crawling over each other to make their way inside the nest. Inside the Queen's chamber I find the perpetually shifting guard of workers around her has grown eerily still. The stillness feels so strange here, in this place of motions and activity in the heart of colony. Gently shifting the workers out of the way I find the Queen herself, silent and still. Ooh boy, I hope I didn't make a boo-boo. So, if I'm reading the situation correctly, the moment the new generation was born, the system recognized that a new species had been created, then gave me, the creator of that species, the right to change the entire colony to a new designation. I wait restlessly in the Queen's chamber for any sign of motion. It only took a few seconds for my species to change, why is it taking so much longer for them? Is it because I'm already quite close to what the new generation can evolve into, whereas the others aren't? What's going to happen to the workforce? Will they all change into new hatchlings? What exactly is going to happen here? I'm so confused. The new hatchlings. I rush back up the tunnel into the chamber, once again passing Chrysalis, who was carefully climbing down, trying not to obstruct any workers entering the nest. In the egg chamber, the 20 small hatchling haven't ceased their shouting match, even as the workers who had tended them have grown still around them. Feeling somewhat anxious about the changing situation, I don't have that much patience for them right now. All of you, shut up. Quote. That was quick. As I bellow at them, the 20 small hatchlings turn to me, immediately quietening down. I didn't realize I had this much charisma as a leader. I'm impressed with me. We have a slight situation in the nest at the moment, so I need you to keep still for a second so I can sort things out. Okay, senior. They respond in unison. Tiny, I want you to guard the nest from below the queen's chamber. Chrysalis, head to the top of the nest but stay within the anthill, don't let anything but workers come down, understood? I understand, master. Tiny just grunts. All right. They'll protect the colony for the time being. All I have to do is keep these 20 workers contained and wait for the rest of the colony to wake up again. It shouldn't take too long, right? When the last of the workers has entered the nest and found a chamber to sleep in, the nest becomes unnaturally still. In every chamber, workers, eggs and larvae sit unmoving, completely silent, completely still. It doesn't take long for the situation to start to grate on my nerves. I feel like the sole survivor of some hideous disease, surrounded by the perfectly preserved bodies of their former family members. Wake up, siblings. Wake up, mother. I can't take being alone like this. As I wait, growing increasingly frantic as time passes, I speak to the new generation intermittently, keeping them settled as we wait for some sort of motion in the colony. The first one to recover was Vibrant, of course. Hey, senior. What's going on? This is so weird, right? I was hunting down the dungeon and bringing up some food when this powerful feeling came over me. I rushed back the nest, dropping my food on the way. How strange is that, right? Then as soon as I got here I just took a nap and now I have a different species. Isn't that strange? And who do we have here? New hatchlings. They're so small. What's that all about? Are they sick? Undernourished? I've been bringing so much food lately, it's impossible they haven't had enough to eat. Have you been eating? You're looking stressed. You aren't hungry, are you? Oh my god. Stop. Okay. Sigh. Every member of the colony is having their species changed. I don't know how long they are going to be out, so try and help me keep watch on the colony. Can you do that? Oh, sure. Not a problem. Okay. If you are doing that, then I might as well get started teaching these new workers. No time like the present, I suppose. Not like I can do anything here to help. All right, senior. Have fun. Vibrant waves an antennae cheerfully as I gather up the new hatchlings and take them towards the farms. Nothing is ever simple around here. Chapter 262, Training Day. Okay. Let's try this again. The enemy is down there. We can see them. We are in a superior position where they cannot fight back. All of the advantages are ours. So, what are you going to do? What is your strategy? The 20 hatchlings and I are positioned in one of the original 4 farms, clinging to the ceiling out of harm's way. I lured a monster out of towards the edge of the open space and tied it down with a gravity bolt. The poor creature is laboring on the ground beneath us, barely able to move, whilst I try to teach these hatchlings how to fight. The particular young worker I've been trying to teach twitches a little as I focus on my attention on them fully. I'm not sure exactly why, but these workers seem a little cowed by me. Perhaps it's just that I'm older and larger. Well, I see the monster down there. Right. I know that I have numerical superiority. Right. Maybe this time I'm getting through to them. I also know that we have a positional advantage here, and the ability to attack our opponent when they can't fight back. Yes. Here we go. So, I will charge down to engage the enemy, forcing myself into its jaws so that by my sacrifice my fellow workers will be able to attack without being harmed. Damn it. Immediately the rest of the hatchlings respond positively. Ooh, that's a good idea. Curses. I should have thought of that. That has to be the right answer. It's flawless. The worker who suggested it is now staring at me like a puppy waiting to be praised. Almost wiggling with joy as the praise of his fellow hatchlings rings in his ears. This again. Wrong. Thwack. Asterisk. Swinging an antennae down hard, I slap the worker on the head. How many times do I have to say this? You are not to die. Oh right. The workers chorus. I feel a splitting headache coming on. In none of the plans that you put forward are you allowed to act in a suicidal way. You should always act to minimize the loss to the colony to as great an extent as possible. It is possible for you to resolve this situation without losing any workers, easily. So you should. The hatchlings look at me as if I'm speaking a different language. This is infuriating. It's almost as if any plan in which they don't die is in some way unsatisfactory. I've been trying for 30 minutes to get them to value their own lives, to think of own safety as something that is important, but it just isn't getting through. Not only do they not care about their own lives, not dying seems to be like a personal failure on their part. They burn to sacrifice themselves for the colony, to win something in the exchange and go down in a blaze of glory. Maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way. It's clear that they aren't going to value themselves for their own sake, but perhaps I get them to value it for another reason. Listen to me, all of you. I declare. 20 sets of eyes and antennae focus on me with laser-like focus. They're so earnest, it's quite cute. Do you wish to serve the colony? I ask. Of course. Yes. I'll die before this day is done for the colony. Okay, whoa. Slow down there. So I take it, you also wish to serve the Queen. Naturally. Mother is the heart of the colony. I will throw my life for the Queen before wakes. Alright, you there, to the side, just chill out there. Sheesh. I take a moment to compose myself. Now answer this question for me. Can you do more to benefit the colony? Can you do more to serve the Queen, when you are alive, as opposed to dead? Quote. They are thinking. They are seriously thinking. In any other situation this would be ridiculous, but the fact that they are thinking at all is a massive win. What if, one of the hatchlings pipes up dubiously, we were to serve the colony for a time, and then die in dutiful service to the colony? Would you be able to do more for the colony whilst still alive? Especially after you've taken biomass and experience that could have gone to others. Are you selfish? I say the word selfish as if throwing up vile poison, and the hatchlings respond with horror and disgust. Selfish. Never. Be accused of selfishness. I would rather die. Unselfishly. Quote. I nod sagely. That's right. If the colony has invested resources in you, it is your duty to repay the colony with dutiful service, not pointless death. I lean closer to them. Not to mention, the other thing to consider. Which colony is better? One with 100 workers, or one with 200 workers? They think and mutter amongst themselves for a moment before deciding that yes, more workers is clearly superior to less workers. The ant logic of strength in numbers is strong with these ones. Exactly. Now how is the colony supposed to increase its numbers if you die so easily? Quote. Ooh, that hit them hard. Time for the final strike. In fact, to strengthen the colony, isn't it your duty to stay alive as long as possible? Wouldn't throwing your life away for personal glory actually be an act of selfishness? Their faces are pure masks of shock. Glorious sacrifice for the colony. Selfish. It sounds like madness, but the logic is so clear. It sounds like heresy to them, but I've laid out a strong case. The war of ideas in playing out on their faces as I watch them. Maybe I have them now. Please, let me have them. I really didn't think that the first order of business I would have when trying to teach these hatchlings would be to convince them not to throw their lives away at the first opportunity. I put so much work into getting to this point. Did they really think I'd let them waste it all? I really hope we don't have to do this with every new worker that hatches, seriously. Slowly, the light of understanding has begun to dawn amongst a few of the hatchlings. I decide that there is a slight chance that some of them may be able to give me a non-stupid answer, so I indicate one of the quicker ants to come forward. Okay. Let's try again. Your foe is there below us, we are here. How do you approach the situation? The hatchling considers the question seriously. I can see the cogs turning as it thinks about what I've said, what its instincts say, and tries to resolve the two. So, I don't throw myself at it and die, it says hesitantly. Obviously. Thwack. Asterisk. It's so simple. Get your hunting party together and attack with acid from range. You can damage your target without it being able to threaten you. With enough acid being applied, you might even defeat the enemy without them coming close enough to hurt you. See. Then all of the workers survive, the hunt is successful and the colony benefits. How can you not understand this? They all nod and exclaim, ooh, as if they've finally understood. These damn idiots. Finally, I snap. Right. Line up. 2 rows of 10. I said 10. Now on my signal you will begin firing acid at the target until you run out. No questions. Put that antenna down. Make every shot count and focus on your skills. Ready. Fire. Nothing happens. They watch me. I watch them. Slowly I bring my antennae forward to rub at my temples. The signal to shoot is when I say, fire. Okay. Ooh. I'm dying here. I'm seriously dying. Fire. Chapter 263 New Rules. After a couple of hours I was able to get the hatchlings to operate in a reasonable way. The first few enemies we defeated with acid and then let the little workers chow down after I dragged the biomass clear of the farm. They ran out of acid quickly though and I was forced to incapacitate the prey before letting the young ants swarm it, training their bite skills and gaining experience. We repeated this process until the farm was empty, then I had them drink their fill from the water before we moved into the next farm. I'd only had to stop them from throwing themselves into the fight and embracing their own certain doom a few times. Progress. Despite having intellectually understood my point that by living they would be able to contribute more to the colony than they could by dying, the urge to throw themselves in harm's way to protect their fellow hatchlings was overpowering. At one point a new monster had burst out of the farm wall whilst the hatchlings were eating. I'd known about it of course, but before I could deal with it, one of the workers had already leapt at the enemy, screaming, "I'll slow it down with my congealed blood." Attack from the flanks. Luckily I'd been quick enough to dash in and knock him aside before crushing the offending monster with a savage bite attack. Naturally I'd then thwacked the offending ant on the head and launched into a lecture about appropriate crises response, no necessarily including immediate sacrifice. Maybe they one day would be in a situation that demanded sacrifice, but this sure as heck wasn't it. After instructing the ants to spend the biomass they had accumulated and handing out a bit of advice, none of them so much as twitched by the way, we moved on to the next farm to repeat the process. I need to stuff these hatchlings full of experience and biomass as fast as possible. There isn't long until the next wave will be born and then we'll have 200 of the little pests to deal with. We stick to the same plan as before. I inform my class of diminutive workers as we cling to the ceiling of the next farm. We begin with acid bombardment of the target until ammunition is expended, then we move bites. Remember to focus on the skill you are using. We want to see some juicy level ups. Anyone who hits level 5 is banned from taking more experience. We need everyone to hit 5 as soon as possible. Yes, senior. They shout. In this way we continue to rush through the farms at breakneck speed. With 20 of the little workers we are able to push through the farms at a fairly rapid clip as they team up to devour any available biomass in record speed and I defeat the monsters we encounter with ease, tying them down with gravity bolts. When we hit the third farm, the first worker reached level 5. By the fifth, most of them had reached level 5 and were ready to form their cores. By the sixth, they all were. Excellent. It's been a great training session, troops. Plenty of biomass absorbed, skills developed and levels gained. It's time now to form your cores. Let's return to the nest and find a safe spot. Roger. Dutifully, the little ants follow along behind me as we retreat to the nest proper. Just to make sure they are looked after I take them down into my own personal chamber at the very base of the nest where Tiny sits on guard, munching on the last thing to try and leap out of the walls at him. With a bit of encouragement, the ants settle in and spend their levels, condensing their cores. An exciting moment for any young ant. Whilst they do that, I hustle up the main tunnel, the awkward stillness still reverberating through the nest, to check in with Chrysalis. Nothing has been happening, Master. After the last of the workers returned it has been very still. Okay. You keep looking out and make sure that we aren't attacked. I'm counting on you to defend us if we get into trouble. Of course, Master. Chrysalis declared confidently. I will allow no trash to desecrate our home. Well, good. My greatest fear is that another wave of monsters will attack us over the surface whilst the workers are out of commission. In which case it would be up to Chrysalis and myself to hold them off for as long as possible and hope that the workers would start waking up. Vibrant is already awake of course and it doesn't take her long to find me as she darts from chamber to chamber, checking on the workers. Hi, how are things going with the new ones? She asks, not even pausing as she rushes by me. It's going well so far. I think they'll work out. Okay. Nope. She's gone. At least she's keeping an eye on all of the chambers like she promised. Time to head back down. The workers having their species changed is unexpected and I don't know how long they are going to be out of action. It's already been a few hours and so far only Vibrant has awakened. It had better not take much longer, it's really stressing me out. When I pass through the Queen's chamber I take a moment to check in on her. The massive ant who is the mother of all members of the colony appears to be slumbering peacefully. Her body is totally still, sunk deep into torpor. I really hope Mother wakes up soon. The colony just isn't the same without her calming presence. Perhaps it's just me hoping too hard, but I swear I saw her antenna twitch as I turned away to head back down into my chamber. I'll tell myself it was real for sure. She'll be up soon. Whilst the ants finish forming their cores, I dig out my own core supply and start fusing together a few special cores. I'm going to have a happy surprise for these little fellow when they wake up. Ah, the joys of being a mentor. It's tough watching them grow up so fast. Chapter 264, The Waking Monarch. Sensation returned to the queen in increments. A leg twitched, then one of her antennae crackled into life, overloading her fuzzed mind with sensory information she wasn't ready to process. As she drowsed, the feeling of change, of difference, rose within her. Even without being fully alert, she knew that she was not the same as she had been when she'd gone to sleep. Her thoughts continued to swirl in languid circles as her body came to life piece by piece. It was always thus for her. She knew that the workers did not enter torpor as she did, her rest was longer, deeper, and took longer to emerge from. For this reason, she tried to rest as little as possible. If something were to happen to her family as she rested, how could she forgive herself? An idle thought stirred vaguely in her mind. If her noisy child were to find out about her lack of rest, surely she would be pestered into sleeping more. It was of vital importance that she conceal her tiredness. The sensation of change grew stronger as she continued to wake. It was difficult to say exactly what it was. Whatever had occurred, had happened within her body. It wasn't easy to feel the difference when the changes were applied to one's own mind. However, a picture was taking shape. The queen was able to feel her own thoughts moving faster than before. Even half awake, she could sense the change. Her mind felt agile and quick as thoughts moved quicker and things that had seemed complex suddenly seemed simpler, more manageable. When she had finally awoken, she shifted her body slightly to ensure her body was all right. Then she tried to find out what was happening in her chamber. Her loyal guards tended to her needs and protected her in this space from spawning monsters. It would be horrible if she were to move too quickly and crush them by mistake. The queen was under no illusions just how much stronger than her children she was. It was a good thing that she checked before shifting herself. Her loyal guard were still here with her, except that they were all resting. All of them. Some of them were even deep in torpor on her back. It was hardly unusual for her children to climb on her back, ensuring that she was clean and defending her from threats spawning overhead, but for them to sink into torpor without first moving to another chamber was unheard of. What exactly was going on? Curious, she brought up her status and stared with surprise at the new species listed there. Formica sapiens. What exactly had happened? Her antennae twitched slightly with exasperation. This had to be the work of her meddling child. Always with grand ideas and strange plans that somehow worked out, the family would be in a far worse position if not for that one's meddling. It's a shame that the smartest of her children would also prove to the most frustrating. What had they done this time? Good. The cores have been formed well and we've reinforced them. Don't look at me like that. Special cores are a rare resource for us, don't be so ungrateful. A little discomfort, extreme pain now, but you'll be thanking me when you evolve. A voice echoed from below, followed by several weary groans. Who do all of these voices belong to? The queen didn't recall hearing them before. Other than her meddlesome child, of course. Let's go back to the farms. We need to get back to level 5 as soon as possible. Before the day is done, you'll have completed your first evolution. That's our schedule. Up and at 'em. Go 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 go. At the noisy urging of her meddlesome child, a sorry-looking cluster of young ants climbed into her chamber from below at what she guessed were the entrances to the farms that she had been told about. She wasn't sure she liked the idea of spawning so many monsters so close to the nest, but she had to admit that the biomass supplied had been more than expected. The repeated harvesting had given her enough biomass to push for the second set of 200 eggs as quickly as she had. Wait a moment, children, she called out, causing the young hatchlings to turn towards her with surprise. Mother, you're awake. They cried and rushed forward to stand before her. What, mother? The meddlesome one yelled and rushed into the chamber, brushing aside the much smaller hatchlings effortlessly before fussing over the queen, pestering her with questions. Internally, the queen smiled, touched by the obvious concern being shown by her meddlesome child, externally. However, thwack, asterisk, ow, what have you done this time, child? The workers, even myself, have been dragged into torpor. My species has also changed. Can you explain? Chastened, the meddlesome child rubbed at their head with an antenna whilst attempting to placate the queen. Well, things worked very well in the plan to create smarter, more capable workers. The first 20 have hatched and I've started training them up. They've already formed their cores and are well on the way to their first evolution with complete +5 upgrades and fully upgraded cores. The unmistakable note of pride was resonating in that voice which had taken on a lecturing tone. The queen was also proud of what her meddlesome child had achieved. If what had been said was true, then these 20 young workers were advancing rapidly and would be a great aid to the family. However, thwack, asterisk, ouch, and the sleeping, right, the torpor. Well, mother, it turns out that when these hatchlings were born, the system decided that they were a new species. As the creator of the new species, I was given the option to convert our existing colony over to the new type. I selected yes and everyone fell asleep, including me. I didn't know it was going to happen. I promise. The queen slowly nodded. It made sense. Her own species had clearly been changed after waking up, and in her opinion, changing the species of the entire colony was the best option. Different species of ants went to war, this was something she knew instinctively. Reaching down with her antenna, gently this time, she patted her meddlesome child on the head. You have done well, child. Now give me a moment to speak to my new children. Visibly pleased to be off the hook, her meddlesome child hopped to one side and began herding the smaller hatchlings towards her. The queen looked down on her new children carefully. The 20 hatchlings were clearly smaller than those born before the change, but there was something different about them. A glimmer of light in their eyes, the way they looked about the chamber taking in information and thinking. The queen was slightly disturbed to see that sort of behavior from her children. She had come to expect it from the meddlesome one, but were these new hatchlings ants as she understood them? Or were they something new? How are you, children? She asked gently. The 20 hatchlings perked up at her words, but were clearly suffering. We are well, mother. Absolutely fine. Never better. The queen smiled down at them. Their bravado fooled no one. I can see that you are in pain, children. Do you require rest? She inquired. Rest was not something workers, nor the queen, generally indulged in. Part of her was genuinely concerned to see her children suffering, another part was testing their response. She wanted to understand her new children. How were they similar to those who had come before? How were they different? Rest. The 20 spat in unison, sounding almost offended at the suggestion. I require no rest, not for another 100 years. Declared one scrappy-looking hatchling close to her right foreleg. I will not rest in this lifetime. Death before rest, cried another. The others took up the chant. Death before rest. Death before rest. Death before rest. The queen's heart lifted in her thorax. These were ants, down to their very hearts. Always to the death with you lot. Stop shouting at the queen. The meddlesome one interrupted, shouting louder than the other 20 combined. Sorry to disturb you, mother. The meddlesome one continued, I should get back to training this bunch. Apparently I need to add a lecture on the necessity and importance of rest. As the meddlesome child glared at the hatchlings, the queen shifted. Guiltily. Rest was important, it just felt like such a waste. Very well, child. I hope you children continue to serve the colony into the future. The hatchlings waved at her vigorously with their antennae as they responded. Of course, mother. We will work tirelessly for the family. Indeed, our efforts will never falter. I'm honored to bear this pain for the colony. Me too. All right, get into the farm already, we're on a schedule here. The meddlesome one herded the young hatchlings back down towards the farms and out of sight as they continued to declare their boundless commitment to the colony. The queen couldn't help but feel warm inside. The future of the family looked bright. Perhaps soon there would be another queen and they would truly start to expand as her instincts demanded that they should. Conflict would follow. It always did in the dungeon. The queen was still young, but she had learned that lesson early. Still, she welcomed it. Her family wouldn't be found wanting against challenge, she firmly believed that. Chapter 265 The New Colony Takes Shape. After speaking to the queen, I took my class down into the farms for further instruction. I honestly can't say what mother was thinking when I spoke to her, she seemed a mix of happy and mad. I have to say, I was quite nervous talking to her. I mean, how am I supposed to know how she would feel about having her species changed? She might have been very attached to it. I don't know. Having her species changed by the acts of one of her own children as well. I have to say, being the whole creator of a new species is sounding ominous to me. For some reason I feel extremely confident that this is going to have further ramifications for me down the line. The system doesn't like to advertise when you unlock something, but surely creating an all-new species in the dungeon is something major. Maybe it isn't. Maybe new species pop up all the time and those that create them are as mediocre and ordinary as me. At least I hope so. If this blows up in my face and turns into some sort of big deal, then I'm going to be super annoyed. The hatchlings are still excited after their meeting with the queen, their fervor has once again been ignited. Thankfully, the buzz has helped push the pain and discomfort of their newly maxed out cores to the back of their minds. Now we can push through the training even faster. Gway hey hey hey. Thanks for the assist, mother. My plan for the first 20 has always been to push them as hard as possible and give them as good a start to their lives as I can. That means doing for them much the same as what I did for Vibrant. Helping them to evolve with special cores from the get-go, maxing out their mutations, and with my improved knowledge I can also provide some guidance in regards to skills and progression. To maximize their potential I'll also get them to choose the superior hatchling evolution. Judging by Vibrant, I suspect that the superior hatchling allows from improved stat growth for evolutions following after and will hopefully allow her and these 20 to grow into the powerhouses of the colony, allowing me a comfortable retirement, tickling larva grubs and boring hatchlings with stories from back in my day, in the future. Ah, the stress-free life surrounded by family and taking my ease. I never got to experience it in my old life, but now I have a chance. To that end, I'm going to work these 20 little hatchlings to the bone. By the time I'm done they'll be super ants the likes of which the dungeon has never seen. Line up you little bugs. Let's get into formation. I'm not going to baby you as much this time, we are going to see some real combat. Their eyes light up as if a burning flame has suddenly exploded within, and I hastily cut them off before they can speak. Absolutely none of you is going to throw yourselves into harm's way, damn it. The first ant to leap at the enemy in a stupid way is going to spend the rest of the training being carried around by the others and fed experience without contributing like a selfish piece of trash. Gasp. I may as well have told them that the offender would be condemned to an eternity of burning hellfire. Not do any work. Be a burden to others. Selfish. These concepts are simply not part of their lexicon. I may as well have told them I'd change their species from ant to duck. As you say, senior. We will obey your instructions. They all assure me they'll behave. I'm sure one of them will crack if the situation gets even a little bit tense, but it'll do for now. Just like we practiced last time. We'll enter the chamber and quickly get into formation. Remember to position yourselves so that the business plaza is facing the foe but you still have line of sight to the target. I thought it was the commercial district. Same thing. You'll never make it if you just get hung up on the small details. Go. Now. 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 With the sort of coordination only a swarm insect could possibly arrange, the hatchlings and I burst into the farm and quickly take up our positions on the ceiling, raining down acidic death on the fiercely battling monsters below. I'm cheating, of course. The tougher looking and most uninjured monsters are the first targeted by own, more powerful and restrictive acid. That should make the next stage easier. Report when you're out of ammo. I'm out. Senior. Out here. Out. Shall I hurl myself at the enemy to secure our escape? I've already warned you twice. There won't be a third, understand? The enemy is weakened. Form up and advance. We shall engage in melee. Moving into a box-like formation with me at the helm, the hatchlings and I advance from the roof, down the wall and then onto the floor, moving into combat with the closest monsters. I've instructed the hatchlings to purchase the different bite skills as they become available and train them in unison so that they level at close to a pace. This'll allow them to get the fusion at tier 3 as soon as possible. I continue to hold out for the tier 4 fusions though, it'll be interesting to see what the difference is. I can see the hatchlings snapping and biting with their tier 1 bites and chomps. The damage they deal individually is minimal, but no ant was ever meant to fight alone. Demonstrating their fast learning capabilities, they are already deploying some of the tactics I'd spoken to them about. On my left, the hatchlings on the flanks and not only moving to surround their foes on the side, but those from behind are climbing on top of their siblings to attack the enemy from above, opening up a new angle of attack. I can't imagine human soldiers riding on their comrades' shoulders into battle, it would be faintly ridiculous to be honest. Ants on the other hand have no issue holding each other up and finding footholds on each other. Heck, some species of ants form living nests, the walls and tunnels formed out of masses of ants hanging off each other, climbing on another ant to attack is just basic stuff. In this way the hatchling ensure they are never outnumbered and can use their many avenues of attack to ward off more powerful monsters who would otherwise threaten them. Naturally I also have to lend a hand every now and again when things get a little hairy, bailing them out with a well-placed chomp, my powerful mandibles shearing through these weak enemies in a single bite. Once we've cleaned through the room, I get the hatchlings to stuff their faces, mutate anything they can, and it's off to the next one. Then the one after that. Then the one after that. We continue to fight and eat until they begin to tell me that their mutations are complete, at which stage one tell them to take the excess biomass to the queen, a task they take to with incredible enthusiasm, bursting with pride at the chance to feed the queen. When all the farms are empty, we have finally achieved our goal. All level 5, with maxed out mutations. Weary but triumphant, I led my suffering charges out of the farms and into my chamber where Tiny continues to keep a watchful eye on the dungeon. At this moment I get another pleasant surprise from Vibrant when she tells me the workers are stirring. The colony is waking up. Chapter 266 The Beast slumbers no more. The hatchlings are herded into my chamber where Tiny is instructed to keep a keen eye on the situation whilst I go to find Vibrant and see what the situation with the workers is like. I find Vibrant hovering around the 200 larvae that recently hatched, fetching chunks of food that my class had brought in and just dumping it close to the grubs as she races back and forth, trying to make sure the ravenous little things get fed. Whoops. The workers tending to the grubs are so omnipresent that I didn't even think to make sure they were getting fed. Thank goodness Vibrant was on the job. They wouldn't have starved to death in such a short time by any means, but their development would have been delayed if they went too long between meals. The larval stage of an ant's development is primarily for them to stack en masse. They have nothing to do but eat and eat some more. The faster they bulk up, the faster they are ready to go into their cocoons and take shape as proper workers of the colony. Vibrant. How are things with the workers? Hold on a sec, senior. I need to feed these grubs. She yells as she rushes past me at a full dash. Aren't they all fed? Nope. Dang it. No point being lazy. I'll pitch in and help. The bulk of the food was stacked in the queen's chamber and it doesn't take us long to deliver it to the remaining grubs who immediately wiggle their ungainly bodies to a position in which they can munch at it. They don't exactly have the best mouthparts for this, but they are giving it a red-hot go. As we worked, I asked Vibrant again what was going on. I've started to see a little movement amongst the workers. The higher evolved ones and the workers I was leading were the first to start moving, she announces cheerfully. Where are they? I ask. Oh, everywhere. Quote. Turns out they are scattered all over the nest in various chambers. After rushing here and there, I eventually find a worker showing signs of life. This fellow looks like he might have been on his second evolution, an advanced worker of some kind. Impressive. I do have the distinct impression that they should have been a bit larger than they currently are though. Ha! HRRRRR. Whoa. The ant is talking. He's developed the pheromone language gland whilst sleeping. Hey there buddy. How are you doing? You sleep okay? I ask. Han, as movement slowly returns to the worker, they continue to try and speak using this new mutation. Take your time, champ. No need to rush. Have what? Have I died for the colony? Quote. No. Quote. Damn it. Come on. Do I have to deal with this again? Over the next hour, more and more workers wake up and I direct them to the queen for a quick debrief before they go back to their duties. After speaking to both me and the queen, and a few workers who had cores being inspected by me, I was able to piece together what had happened to them as they'd slept. Not only had the system changed their species, it had also brought them as close in line with the generic template of the new species as it could. The workers haven't completely changed to match the new hatchlings, but they are close. They all have the pheromone language gland and all of them have sacrificed size and lost mutations in order to fuel their brain development. They aren't as smart as the hatchlings are, but they are a heck of a lot smarter than they were before. After a few evolutions, I suspect the difference between the old workers and the hatchlings yet to be born will disappear entirely. The first 20 are going to get an extra kick to start off their lives. The hatchlings born after this won't be getting this sort of VIP treatment. I emphasize to each worker, and I have the queen double down for me to hammer the point home, that each worker is far more valuable to the colony alive than they are dead. I'm not sure if the new wave of sacrifice-minded workers have heeded the message or not, but hopefully it's sunk in enough that by the time I get the first 20 out there to help manage things there won't be any damage. Speaking of the 20, with the workers slowly going back into action, it's time for their first evolution. I head back down into my chamber and recall Chrysalis to meet up with us. When she arrives, the 20 hatchlings are arranged in a half circle before me in the chamber, Tiny backing me up like a half-asleep bouncer. Hatchlings, you are about to embark on the first step of the long road to ant greatness. This evolution will help lay the groundwork for your future progression. It is my aim that in time, you will grow to become the foundations of this colony as it grows and expands. It isn't feasible for every hatchling to receive the same start in life that you have, the resources required are too great. The ants listen to my great spiel with focused eyes. My rambling seems to be resonating in some way. In fact, the spirit in their gaze is starting to make me a little nervous. No need to be quite so serious, guys. Ah, cough asterisk. For you first evolution you'll choose the superior hatchling option and I want you to be sure to select a stomach as your organ. This will help hasten your future development of mutations and decrease the demand on the resources of the colony. Beyond that, you can do whatever you want with your stats. From your second evolution onwards you'll be able to choose a caste and decide how you'll contribute to the colony from there. Are we good? Yes, senior. They shout in unison, causing me to jump. Okay. Get to it then, I guess. At that weak instruction the ants quickly cluster in one corner of the chamber and immediately grow still as they begin to interface with the evolution menu. After some research it was determined that only by purchasing a stomach upgrade during evolution would the ants begin to mutate their stomach. Some of the mutation advancements are especially appealing and I've provided some advice to the hatchling in that regard. Having core surgery is a little bit of a hack in some regards. I can't see the whole evolution menu when I'm in there, but I can look at options that are within reach of the core I'm looking at. With all of them choosing a stomach and then mutating it, getting them to +10 for another perfect evolution will be a piece of cake. I've done the maths on my cores and I think I only just have enough to max out the cores of all 20 for the next evolution. 5 cores each means 100 cores straight up and then another 60 or so to form the special cores through fusion. I don't imagine that the royal family of Lyria ever imagined their amassed wealth in cores would be wasted in just a few short weeks in this way. It's enough to bring a smile to my heart. Gwehehe. Not long. Now and I'll be able to turn over the bulk of the thinking in the colony to these hatchlings. Once I get them through the second evolution, it's going to be on them. Then I'll be a little more free. For now though, whilst they are busy evolving I should use my time somewhat productively. The queen wants me to take on the rare core so I might as well try and start absorbing it. Feeling nervous, I dig it out of the wall and the powerful gem rolls onto the dusty earth of my chamber before me. This is one honking big core. I can't help but feel an internal sting as I contemplate trying to absorb this thing. This one's gonna hurt. Chapter 267 Lining up those ducks. The rare core sat on the ground in front of me and I knew it was time to pay the piper. As much as I'd derived a strange sense of joy forcing the hatchlings to absorb a special core, this process seriously hurts. I've already maxed out my core and absorbed a special core. If I absorb this rare core, will I really be able to take it? Or will my core just detonate and rip me apart from the inside? Hoo boy. Here we go. Taking a deep breath I gingerly reach down with my antennae and touch them to the cold surface of the core. Compatible rare core detected. Would you like reinforce your core or reconstitute the monster? I sure as heck don't want to create one of those crocs as one of my pets. I have too many bad memories of them to even consider it. Nothing for it. Gimme dat core juice. As soon as I give my mental assent, the densely packed energies contained within the gem-like sphere begin to flow into me, swirling throughout my body before settling in my core, adding their strength to my own. And it hurts immediately. I'd gotten used to the vaguely stretched feeling of my maxed out core to the point where it didn't really bother me. I'm not sure if that was just because I'd become accustomed to the pain or if my body had adjusted to the extended core size. Ultimately it doesn't matter. As the vast energies within the rare core pour into me and my core starts to grow, the pain is instant and intense. My body was not meant to hold a core of this size. Damn, that stings. Holy moly. With a capital M. This must be what it feels like to have a swollen stomach that is not a stomach but actually a stone formed of condensed mystical energies. The pain isn't even localized around my core. Unlike before, it is radiating outwards, zapping along my nerves to the ends of my limbs and rebounding off my extremities to come back to my center even worse than before. How delightful. In complete agony, all I can think of is to endure as best I can. I don't know why, but the idea to immediately stop and just walk away doesn't occur to me. I don't need this in my life. I've suffered plenty in my new existence, perhaps someone else could pick up this burden for me. I've done more for the colony than every other individual in it bar the queen herself at this point. And it isn't as if I want to be all-powerful, lord of all he surveys sort of monster. I don't especially crave individual power, I'm not deeply ambitious, I'm far too lazy for that. And yet, I grit my mandibles and hold on. Perhaps it was watching the 20 hatchlings be so stoic and selfless in their attitudes. Perhaps it was the acceptance of the queen to what I had done, creating so much change to push the colony forward. Perhaps I'm just stupid. I haven't ruled that out. Whatever the reason, I hold on. It hurts and I hold on. There is agony and I hold on. I feel like my body and mind are breaking into 1,000 pieces, but I hold on. As strange as it sounds, I felt clarity in those moments. As if the pain radiating out from my core as it grows is searing away the clutter and doubt that normally rattles away inside my mind. I feel clean. I feel pure. I'll endure this. I'll survive. There are things that are more unendurable than this. I have a family now, something I've never really had before. I won't allow them to suffer. I won't allow them to struggle. Deep down, I'm prepared to shoulder burdens to help them. This core needs to be used and I'm the best one to use it. For whatever reason, there is no member of the colony as advanced as I am. For the time being it has to me. And so I hold on. There is nothing in my universe except for the pain and the ball of packed energy resting on the dirt before me. The transfer of energy is glacially slow, or at least it feels that way. This core must hold more than 10 times as much energy as a special core. No matter how much I drain out, it doesn't seem like I'm any closer to finishing absorbing it. More pain. I endure. I hold on until my thoughts fade away to nothing and my vision goes black. Ha, I'm up. Dang, it still hurts. When alertness rocks back into my mind, I spring to my feet only to find my entire body is screeching with agony. Yeouch. It's like every cell in body hit the gym with an enthusiasm they were not able to endure. Not a single part of me isn't radiating an intense displeasure with their present circumstances. And my core. Holy moly, the core. As if I'd swallowed a rock that carried a grudge, it sits in the center of my body and it just doesn't fit. I'm too damn full. Worst of all, I can still see the rare core on the ground in front of me. I must have passed out from the pain before I'd been able to finish the absorption process. Perhaps that's a good thing. I really don't feel like I could take any more in right now. I really feel as if I'm on the edge of some serious damage here. I hope that after some time has passed, the tightness and pain will fade to the point that I can absorb the rest, right before I evolve. Gingerly, since every motion sends new signals of hurt rocketing through my nerves, I roll the core to one corner and bury it with the rest of my stash. The hatchlings appear to still be in the process of evolving. Which is good. I need a little rest and recovery time. Before that though, I'd told myself I would check in on the village, just to make sure that the changes to the colony weren't about to spark some sort of conflict or misunderstanding. So like a geriatric grandpa ant with severe arthritis and 3 dodgy hips, I make my way up the central shaft of the nest. Despite my condition, I can't help but notice the changes taking place in the colony already. The first and most obvious thing is the pheromone trails that have been left. Where once they were very simple messages, food here, brood needs tending, help dig, they have become much more complex. Swishing my antennae through the air, I get a rush of conversations that have taken place lately and descriptive long-term trails that have been marked down several times. The first one I run into says, "Hi there. Brood is over this way, need help with cleaning and feeding. Current food levels are healthy but expecting a spike in demand soon." Followed by, Hi. I've been told there will be a spike in demand for food soon. How exciting. Follow this trail above ground to join in the surface hunting. Make sure you hunt in a team. Groups of 5, stay alive. I can tell that last one is vibrant, apparently continuing to step up her leadership skills. In general, the messages are friendly or business-like. Things like, this way for digging, keep that soil fresh. Or, afternoon brood chambers this way. Can always use more help. Lots of brood lately, smiley face. How the hell did they invent the sent emoji in such a short time? Even as I slowly clamber out of the nest, I receive lots of greetings and well wishes as I do so. Hello. Keep up the good work. Hi. Work hard. Stay healthy there, fellow worker. Otherwise you can't work. I get it. You like working. At least they aren't talking about throwing their lives away in some pointless fashion. I suspect that the next time the colony is under attack that might come back out. We'll see. For now I tiptoe my way over to the human village to see how things are traveling. Chapter 268, the second phase. We need more of this. As soon as you can get it. Okay. Maybe take it out of my face a little so I can see it. An unusually forceful and intent Enid is waving something in my face with shaking hands. As soon as I waddled my way into the village, someone had gone to fetch her and the normally dignified older lady had arrived at a dead run, her skirts hiked up with one hand and the other clutching this object. As she withdraws the object slightly, I can see that it is, as suspected, the mana-infused wood that I delivered to Bane a day or so ago. Ah, finally got your hands on that, did you? So what is it? I inquire. It's mana-infused wood. I can see that plain as day. What is it good for? Enid huffed with her hands on her hips. Well, that's a different question, isn't it? She held the branch tenderly in her hands, like a newborn babe. This wood has absorbed the plentiful mana of the dungeon and taken on the attributes that surrounded it. Yeah, these kinds of materials from the dungeon are treasured and worth just as much as cores. Nations fight over the rights to expanses and other regions that produce this kind of thing fiercely. They are rare and incredibly useful. Not to mention valuable. In the past, I dealt with some things like this that my husband managed to bring up. They sold high, I can tell you. Enchanters and craftsmen love this stuff. For what? I'm losing my patience here. Looking down at me disapprovingly, Enid sniffs before answering. When making items designed to channel certain types of mana, materials like this will amplify the effect. For example, if a staff were made for a water wizard with materials that were imbued with water mana, any spell cast through the staff would be more powerful. Ooh, that is handy. Enid smiled triumphantly at my growing enthusiasm. Not only that, you could make shields, swords, armor, or artifacts that would add that element to their offense or defense. But this wood has double elements in it, I pointed out, water as well as earth. Is that good? That, declared Enid, once again waving the stick with vigor in my face, as the most important thing. Double affinity. Double the offensive boost, double the defensive. This kind of material is extremely rare. In Lyria, anything like this was claimed directly by the crown. Okay, so it's great stuff. That's nice. But what exactly can we do with it? I doubt there are any master enchanters hanging around the village currently, and the colony certainly doesn't have the ability to make anything with it. Yet, with how hard-working and dedicated the workers are, combined with their new smarts, who knows what they'll capable of in a few years. In my mind, scenes of the great ant forges begin to appear, the cavernous halls under the earth where thousands of teeming artisans craft ant weapons and armor at an industrial scale. Gway. It's glorious within my mind. Focus, Anthony. Play it cool. The inevitable ant future will arrive in time. Enid was looking at me strangely. Damn it, Anthony. Don't let the ambition be quite so naked. Well, you aren't wrong, the wily woman answered warily, but we do have a few tradespeople, apprentices, and, more importantly, we have Bane to help guide us to unlocking the skills and classes related to shaping mana-infused materials and enchanting. Won't it take ages for someone to train up those skills? Just how much time do you think we have to spend on something like this? She shook her head. It won't take as long as you think. By accelerating level growth in the dungeon and with expert knowledge to crack the unlock conditions, the only thing missing is materials to use for grinding skills. I see. So this is why you want me to bring more up. The question I have for you is, what's in it for the colony? The expanse is ours and we are the only ones able to go down there and collect the stuff. We got down to a bit of haggling and eventually worked out a distribution deal for the crafted materials, the lion's share going to the colony, of course. I was also able to extract a promise from a curious Enid to engage in a knowledge-sharing arrangement, where the village would inform the colony of anything they were able to learn. With that business concluded, it was time to return to the nest and check in on my class of hatchlings. Once more painfully shifting my legs one by one as shooting beams of agony rippled through my body with each step, I made my way back to my chamber. The journey only took 4 times as long as normal. I feel as if I'm prematurely aging. Back into the nest as the flood of greetings, conversations and trails rattles my antennae once more. It really is noisy in here now. Thinking back, it wasn't that long ago that I was worried I'd never have anyone to talk to ever again. To have this constant chatter and noise around me, here, in this place where I feel so safe. It's just nice. Almost enough to bring a tear to my eye, but not quite because I remain physically incapable of it. Back down the chamber, the ants are alert again. For whatever reason they are clustered about Tiny as the great ape remains seated on his backside, to all appearances totally asleep. Any issues here, Chrysalis? I ask my more alert and capable companion. No problems, master. The little ones awoke only a short time ago. I have to chuckle at Chrysalis referring to them as little ones. She isn't that much older that they are. Why are they looking at Tiny so closely? I inquire. I've no idea. He's been sleeping on the job for the last 30 minutes. Chrysalis sounds decidedly irritated at her lazy associate. I'll sort him out later, I promised her before I rounded on the workers. Okay then, you lot. One evolution down, One more to go before you have graduated from basic training. You know what that means. More core absorption. I shout joyfully. The best thing to forget about your own pain sometimes is to inflict it on others. Chapter 269, Diving into the Depths. Stop your slacking. Aren't you ready to work for the colony? Of course, senior. The hatchlings are once again suffering from the effects of being stuffed full of cores and then absorbing a special core. Packing all of them full has depleted my stash to basically nothing, but it'll be worth it. These 20 are getting the best start in life an ant could possibly hope for. Each and every one of them has taken the superior hatchling evolution that Vibrant had. Their stats have been boosted only a little from their original hatchling form. The only significant difference is in cunning, since a small boost in that stat represents a substantial shift, but over their next few evolutions the payoff will be huge. Regardless of what type of ant these first 20 choose to be, soldier, queen or worker, I want them to be exemplary examples that will be able to lead those who follow in their footsteps. I'm on the clock though. I need to get these 20 up to level 10 and evolve before the next set of 200 hatchlings emerges. When last I checked in on the brood, they were quite chubby little grubs. It won't be long before they enter the pupal phase. Gotta move fast. Or at least, I would, but I'm still suffering from my own core being oversized. God, I hate this feeling. Chrysalis is leading the way down at the moment, with Tiny bringing up the rear. This is a good chance for the two of them to grind some skill points, and I don't want to waste it. Normally I'd want to be grinding those skills myself, but the discomfort I'm experiencing has dampened my enthusiasm somewhat. As we descend through the tunnels, Chrysalis reaches out with a forest of dark tentacles, grasping hold of monsters before they even know she's coming. Once held within her grasp, there is little they can do to save themselves. More tentacles lash out and the victim is quickly rendered unable to fight before being deposited behind her. One of the ants steps forward to deliver the finishing strike before the rest approach to devour the biomass. We are advancing in record time, to be honest. This system is nothing except efficient. The workers are still leveling at a decent pace and their enhanced stomachs are working just as well as I'd hoped they would. Not only has their capacity increased, but apparently the mutation menu for the organ has an option that will allow them to consume biomass as if they were one tier of evolution lower, reducing the penalty. I must get my hands on this organ during my next evolution. Things will be made so much simpler. In fact, this organ and mutation should be mandatory for all workers in the colony. The efficiency gains when spread across thousands of workers will be staggering. Erg. That stings. Damn core. What this means for my class of hatchlings is that they are rapidly piling up biomass as we advance further into the dungeon, seeking higher level creatures to feed them the experience they need to reach level 10 as soon as possible. How's it going, Chrysalis? Do you need to rest? I can have Tiny swap in for you anytime. That is unnecessary, Master. I am more than sufficient to dispose of this filth. Please allow me to continue. Sure. As long as you're okay. I can almost feel the dark joy emanating from Chrysalis' twists and crunches these monsters into a helpless state. You are walking further and further down a questionable road, Chrysalis. I'm not sure how I should feel about it, to be honest. For now though, our progress is rapid as we continue to descend. After another hour of this, I call a halt to our procession and gather the hatchlings before me. You've done well to keep up with my accelerated learning program so far, your hatchlings. But the time for you to earn your own supper has come. What do you mean, senior? They query me, antennae wibbling with curiosity. I mean, it's time for the 20 of you to engage in glorious combat for the colony. At last. Before the day is done, my broken body will decorate the trash pile of the colony. I've had enough of you. Go stand at the back and think about what you said. Sheesh. I shake my head for a moment before fixing my gaze on the rest of the workers. You know the rules. Each and every one of you is to make it back to the colony in one piece. We have invested heavily in you because your future contributions to the colony will be immense, don't waste it. I fix them all with a sharp glare, especially that moron at the back. I want to see if our lessons have been sinking in properly, and I want to see if you can handle yourselves when my pets and I aren't here to help you. Have you got what it takes? As one they roar with their squeaky hatchling voices, of course, senior. Everyone comes back alive. Don't forget. I ram home the point once more. I can't help but be worried. Tiny, Chrysalis and myself will be with them, of course, ready to step in just in case something goes wrong, but protecting the ants from their own sacrificial impulses could be much more difficult than protecting them from monsters. With a flick of an antennae, I gesture for the much smaller hatchlings move to the front and take the lead. Once again, They seem strangely deferential as they pass Chrysalis, greeting her politely even though she can't hear them. Tiny, make sure to guard our back zone. I don't want anything to get a jump on us. HRRRR, bored. Don't care, buddy. What about me, master? You're with me, Chrysalis, hop on. The writhing mass of tentacles before me cheerfully retracts until the compacted softball of infinite despair is once again revealed. She takes her customary position on my back and we are ready to depart. This should be interesting. The hatchlings are a little hesitant at first and I can hear them conferring with each other in hushed tones. You don't really need to talk quietly, guys. You don't actually make any sound, I tell them. One of the hatchlings on the outside of the huddle turns to answer me. We are operating under the assumption that it's possible other species capable of pheromonal communication could exist, therefore care should be taken at all times. That's actually pretty smart. Huh, who has the best vision? I'm +6. +7 here. You two take point. Right. Who has the highest acid upgrades? I'm +6. Extra damage. Also +6. Restrictive. You two should go up top and keep the line of fire open as much as possible. I have the best carapace here. Let me frontline. Good. I think we have our formation. Are we ready? Yes. Proceed. In almost no time they arrange their team into a working formation and delegate roles to each member based on their best attributes. Watching them arrange themselves so quickly and then begin moving out with such purpose and organization has got my heart fair pounding in my chest. In some ways these hatchlings are more than I had ever hoped they would be. I've got the best healing though. You should let me throw myself in the enemy's mouth to take their weapons out of the battle. That could be good. Oi, shut up you. I yell. Some of them still need a lot of work it seems. Chapter 270 Back from Patrol 1. The civilized races is a term often bandied about casually in scholarship, yet many people remain ignorant of its true meaning and origins. The lines that become drawn between the races are often so clear-cut as, these races are civilized, therefore safe, and these are not. The so-called civilized are just as prone to greed, violence and short-sighted action as the creatures of the dungeon at times, as history has proven many times. Others simply don't understand the lines drawn between those races who existed before the descent of the system, often referred to as the firstborn, and those who came after, somewhat derogatorily referred to as the new blood. Before the time of rending, mana began to infuse the surface, giving rise to magic and many other wonders. At the same time that mana concentrated in certain places and within some things, a process that only accelerated as the dungeon opened and the surface became flooded with mana at levels that have never been seen again. This mana injection changed the surface of Pangera forever, not only due to the monsters that devastated its surface but also by giving rise to new races, such as the Bruanchi, a race of sentient tree-like creatures that appeared from a single tree in the southern wilds. Or the Brathian, the aquatic creatures who developed from Lake Bratha after it became flooded with mana during the rending when a dungeon opening connected to the lake. The elder races have not always welcomed these newcomers peacefully, and when the dungeon monsters receded, a new wave of conflict began when old blood began to mix with new. Eventually peace was established and cooperation began. After all, the system does not recognize the civilized races as monsters, therefore it would be unnatural to fight against each other, at least that is what the Church of the Path has always preached. Others, such as the Sophists, were not so lucky. Branded as monsters by the system, they were first excluded and then hunted, causing them to conceal their underground settlements and withdraw from contact with those they had fought beside during the rending. Excerpt from Ruminating on the Races, by scholar Fuandriel of the Carmado. Dash 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 dash. Murrin was exhausted. Her body ached from top to toe and she had a sneaking suspicion one of those toes was broken. The mental fatigue may have been the worst of it. She hadn't slept in what felt like 3 days. Why the hell did she let herself get talked into this rubbish? Donnellan, remind me why I let you talk me into this rubbish. She asked irritably. Her equally exhausted yet strangely animated fellow legionary turned back to her and she swore she could see the light of madness dancing in his eyes. After 2 weeks on the bulwark, you want to spend our precious leave sleeping. I am going to eat and drink until I'm sick, then do it again. He declared and continued threading his way through the crowd. Mirren had to admit the idea held some appeal. The things she'd seen, done and been made to understand since her baptism had obliterated her understanding of how the world worked. Only now did she understand what an underdeveloped and ignored pocket of the world Lyria truly had been. The trainees hadn't been given any time to question or absorb their new circumstances before being thrown into grueling training. The commander himself tirelessly drilled them. 2 days of practice in the living rock suits known as abyssal armor, and they had been thrown into live combat patrols. 3 days after that, and they'd been broken up and sent to various forts that formed part of the bulwark, the network of defenses that locked a bubble of dungeon off from the lower levels. Time you find out the sort of the thing the Legion really does down here, the commander had informed them gruffly, and find out they had. He'd taken the group on an extended tour of the bulwark, inspecting the forts and dropping the trainees off as they went. Deep down, Mirren had always felt as if she were tough, as if she were made of stern stuff. Nothing like the commander obviously, but still, tough. The legionaries she had met at her fort were so damn tough she felt they didn't need abyssal armor at all. The monsters would snap in half when they tried to bite them. She'd reported to her new centurion on arrival, a grizzled veteran named Tanner, and been shocked at the man's age. If he was a day under 60, she'd have been shocked. Thin and wiry, the tendons in his neck plain to see, Tanner had very quickly eliminated any concerns about age from her mind. The man fought like an angry bear and sounded like one too. His legionaries hung of every word that came about his mouth, and Mirren learned rapidly to do the same. This man knew the business of killing monsters, and business was good. Too good. If the wave above had been brutal, down here in the second strata it was worse. Each fort was tasked with locking down one tunnel, preventing monsters from coming up and going down. Short-handed and undersupplied, the legionaries fought for hours on end, every day. When they couldn't stand up anymore, they were rotated off to rest until they could, then it was back out in the thick of it. Mirren hadn't even taken off her suit the entire time she was out there. She was also made to see some of the other measures the Legion had been forced to in order to hold the line. She grimaced. Did you have any irregulars at your fort, Donnellan? She asked. He paused for a moment as he pushed through the crowd, before starting up again. I see a bar over there. Come on, he muttered grimly, pulling her across the street. The two of them parted the curtain that hung across the front of the establishment. Like most buildings in Rayla, it was shaped out of the stone, creating a dark and cool atmosphere inside. Glowstones dotted the walls and roof, providing a soft illumination that revealed a crowded bar area, with tables and booths towards the back. Behind the bar a massive figure stood, a Golgaran, one of the stone people. His thick hands moved with surprising grace as he poured drinks and fetched glasses for his clientele. Barely pausing to take the scene in, Donnellan quickly stepped towards the bar and slapped down a coin, flashing it at owner, who nodded towards them as finished serving his current customer. I guess we know what those prisoners were for now, The mage forced out a laugh as he played with the coin in his fingers. The what? Mirren asked, leaning onto the stone bar next to him. The prisoners, he repeated, staring at her. When she continued to stare back blankly, he continued, remember. When we came down here to Rayla, the Legion brought a bunch of killers and criminals down with us. Where did you think the irregulars came from? Her eyes widened with understanding. Oh. Donnellan grunted. Right. Oh. As the massive bartender made his way over, Donnellan ordered 2 tall glasses of something with kick, and paid the man. As the huge figure with skin that looked like solid rock poured out the drinks, Mirren wasn't sure she felt about the irregulars. They had certainly helped in the fighting. Not as strong as a full legionary, but stronger than most normal people. Now she knew where they came from. She didn't know if it was right or wrong. The criminals had been sentenced to death, and in most ways they had died, as humans anyway. She'd seen the irregulars, seen them eat. She certainly wouldn't call them people. That was what happened when a person eats biomass.